Hey there, sleepyheads. Welcome back to the channel. Before we drift into tonight's tale of the dream between universes, I'd love to know where in the world you are watching from tonight. And what time is it for you right now? Drop it in the comments below. It's always magical, seeing how far and wide this sleepy little community reaches. All right, lights low, blankets up. Let's begin. Tonight we are not just walking into a story, we are slowly stepping into a space between spaces. A place that exists softly on the edge of waking and dreaming. Imagine it as a quiet corridor, stretched between countless realities, where time does not move the way you are used to. It is neither here nor there, neither past nor future. It simply is. And within this quiet existence, the Finns, Jakes, and Marcelines of every timeline can appear, not constrained by the ordinary flow of life or story. As we begin to drift, picture the sensation of a gentle current beneath your body. It is not cold, but warm, like the lingering embrace of sunlight on a quiet afternoon. That warmth carries you forward slowly, gently, into a world that is neither solid nor empty. Shapes shift here, softly, like shadows moving in water, and colors seem to hum quietly as they flow from one to another. This is the threshold of dreams. It is the delicate border between what you know and what your mind can imagine. The quiet space where realities meet in their most intimate forms. In this space, every detail you think you might recognize from your day feels subtly altered. Trees sway without wind, clouds drift in impossible directions, and light bends around corners where it should not. It is familiar enough to feel safe, yet different enough to remind you that you are not in ordinary reality anymore. You might feel the tug of a memory, like a whisper brushing against your thoughts, or hear a faint echo of a voice you have not heard in years. These are the signals that the dream space is welcoming you, that it is ready for you to wander its quiet halls. As we step deeper, imagine the sensation of stretching infinitely in all directions. Above you, stars drift lazily, some bright, some faint, some glowing in colors your eyes have not learned to name. Between them, threads of light connect distant points, not like maps or constellations, but like delicate pathways between possibilities. Each of these threads could be a version of a Finn exploring courage somewhere else, a Jake discovering something new, or a Marceline carrying a song she has never sung to anyone but herself. The space hums with potential, calm and serene, and yet deeply alive. You might wonder how these versions of familiar faces coexist here. In the waking world, they are separated by choice, by time, by circumstance. But here, in this gentle expanse, they move without conflict, without struggle. They are reflections, echoes, and fragments of selves that have lived, dreamed, and imagined countless lives. Some versions are weary, bearing burdens of choices never made. Others are light and unbound, dancing with a freedom that defies the ordinary rules of existence. And yet, all of them are fundamentally the same, held together by the quiet thread of being. Notice how the threshold of dreams does not demand that you understand it, only that you feel it. You are not meant to grasp all the possibilities at once. Instead, let your mind soften and your thoughts settle like leaves drifting onto a still pond. Perhaps you see a Finn standing alone beneath a glowing tree, his sword tucked quietly at his side, staring at the sky with a curiosity that feels like hope and sorrow mingled together. Somewhere nearby, a Jake stretches impossibly, his body curling into shapes that seem to reflect the currents of the dream space itself, and in a distant echo, a Marceline hums a note that travels far, soft and low, touching every corner of this vast in-between. The beauty of this space is that it is shaped by perception. Every time you breathe, the air itself seems to shift. A light breeze carries scents that are both familiar and strange, like the memory of rain on old stone or the sweetness of a song long forgotten. Shadows stretch across paths that were not there moments before, and reflections ripple in surfaces that are not quite water, not quite glass. This is the subtle magic of the dream space, where reality is fluid, and the ordinary becomes extraordinary if you let yourself notice. You may find yourself floating without effort, as if gravity itself has chosen to rest. Each movement feels soft, as if swimming through a warm, invisible current. There is no rush, no destination, only the quiet unfolding of possibilities. And as you drift, you begin to notice patterns emerging in the space around you. Stars seem to cluster near certain fins, glowing threads of connection looping gently between them. Jakes curl around these threads, guiding, observing, shaping, without imposing. Marcelines hover, carrying melodies that float like ribbons, weaving between echoes of laughter, moments of courage, and quiet, contemplative silences. This threshold, sleepyheads, is more than just a place. It is a mirror. Not the kind that shows a reflection of your face, but one that shows glimpses of potential, of paths you might have taken, of selves you could meet if you allow yourself to dream deeply enough. And in meeting these selves, we encounter understanding, not the loud, urgent understanding of the day, but a gentle knowing, a soft awareness that we are not alone in our fears or our hopes, even across timelines and possibilities. Even now, you might sense movement on the periphery of your awareness. A fin stepping forward, quiet but determined. A Jake stretching lazily across a glowing thread, watching, waiting. A Marceline leaning into a note that vibrates softly against your mind. And though they are many, though they are endless in their variations, there is a singular calm to their presence, a slow heartbeat to the dream space itself that you can almost feel aligning with your own. As you float quietly within this threshold, you may notice the edges of the dream space bending softly, as if aware of your presence. Shapes shimmer into view slowly, almost reluctantly, like the first light of dawn creeping across a still lake. A fin emerges from the haze, his hair brushing the glowing threads of starlight above him. There is something familiar in his gaze, yet subtly different. Traces of countless choices, moments where courage and doubt intertwined. He does not speak, not yet. He simply exists, a quiet anchor in the endless drift of possibilities. Near him, another fin stretches his arms wide as though reaching for something unseen, perhaps a fragment of a world he once imagined. His expression carries a softness, a gentle questioning that does not seek answers but rather embraces the wonder of existence. Each fin that appears in this threshold seems to hum with life in a different way, some with the laughter of adventures lived and remembered, others with the quiet contemplation of paths never taken. And as they move, the space around them seems to pulse in response, bending and twisting like gentle waves in a hidden ocean. And then, as if answering some unspoken call, a Jake drifts into view. He stretches in ways that feel impossible, his body elongating, curling, folding into itself, yet always maintaining a sense of calm purpose. He moves with a rhythm that is both playful and meditative, guiding the space with quiet gestures rather than words. The dream space listens to him, bending around his form, carrying a faint golden warmth that ripples outward, brushing against every fin, every Marceline present. Here he is not just companion or guide, but a subtle observer of the infinite dance of selves, reminding us that the threads of connection are as vital as the individuals they link. And from somewhere deeper in the luminous haze, a Marceline appears, gliding with the soft grace of one who has traveled countless nights. Her hair drifts behind her like dark water, catching faint glimmers of light as she moves. Her eyes hold echoes of joy and sorrow, of songs sung in solitude and in companionship. Every version of her carries fragments of memory, each note and pause forming a tapestry that resonates softly with the dream space itself. Even in her quietest moment, there is music, a vibration that travels across the threads connecting Finn's and Jake's, as if reminding them, and you, that every moment, every interaction, leaves an imprint that cannot be erased. As you drift closer, you may realize that the dream space responds to the depth of attention you bring to it. The more quietly you watch, the more alive it becomes. Stars ripple, threads of light pulse faintly, and the gentle whispers of distant echoes, perhaps voices of other selves, tickle the edges of perception. Here there is no hurry, no need to understand or act. You can simply observe, gently letting the currents of possibility carry you forward, feeling the calm rhythm of existence stretch and unfold around you. And as you watch, you begin to notice small patterns forming. Perhaps a Finn reaches for a glowing thread, only to find a Jake curling around it, steadying it, smoothing its tension. Perhaps a Marceline strums a note that resonates with a laughter shared across universes, and a ripple of light follows, connecting a Finn who had been standing quietly alone. There is a slow choreography to the dream space, one that does not demand your attention, but invites it gently, encouraging you to notice the delicate balance of presence, connection, and motion. It is important to remember, sleepyheads, that in this threshold, the ordinary rules of reality are softened. Time is not linear, distance is not fixed, and identity flows like water. You may see a Finn who appears older than the one beside him, yet their eyes carry the same curiosity. You may witness a Jake stretching impossibly across threads that seem to lead nowhere, yet his calm presence reassures every being nearby. Marcelines hum quietly in different corners, each note carrying a subtle memory, a whisper of what has been and what might yet be. Perhaps you feel, too, that the dream space is aware of you, not in a frightening way, but as though it recognizes the gentle attention you bring. You are not merely a spectator. Your breathing, slow and even, becomes part of its rhythm. Your heartbeat, calm and steady beneath the covers, aligns subtly with the slow pulses of light and color that move across the space. Here, the dream space is responsive, yet never intrusive, inviting you to float along, letting the soft current carry your thoughts, your presence, into its folds. As you drift deeper, notice how the boundary between observer and participant begins to blur. Perhaps a Finn turns slightly and glances in your direction, not with surprise, but with a quiet recognition. A Jake curls nearby, his gaze gentle, as if acknowledging the calm attention you bring. Marcelines hover just out of reach, their melodies brushing against your consciousness, inviting reflection rather than action. You are both part of this threshold and apart from it, a presence that is quiet, mindful, and entirely in tune with the slow unfolding of this space. Even the air in the dream space carries its own gentle rhythm. Breaths of wind, scents of distant flowers, faint touches of warmth and coolness, all flow seamlessly together, never clashing, always in harmony. You may feel it brush against your skin like the lightest of caresses, carrying with it the faint echoes of a world that exists beyond memory, beyond the waking mind. It is here, in this gentle confluence of perception and presence, that the true nature of the threshold of dreams reveals itself. A quiet sanctuary where every possibility can coexist, where every self and every form can simply be. As you drift further into the threshold, the sense of weightlessness becomes almost tangible, as though the dream space itself has wrapped around you like a soft blanket. Every movement, every breath feels slower, more deliberate. The world outside these walls of consciousness, your room, your thoughts, the ticking of clocks, fades gently into a quiet hum, leaving only this space, this moment, this soft interlude between realities. Here you are free to notice the subtleties, the small ripples of light and motion that weave the dream space into existence. Notice the fins again, scattered across the softly glowing threads. Some lean against luminescent structures that resemble trees or rock formations, though they shimmer with impossible colors. Others wander slowly, barefoot, or shod in distant echoes of past adventures, eyes lifted toward the drifting lights above. Each fin carries a quiet story, small gestures that hint at battles fought, choices made, friendships cherished, and losses mourned. Yet despite their differences, there is a shared calm, a serenity in their presence, as if each has found a small piece of peace in this place between worlds. A jake stretches nearby, curling and unfurling with a languid grace. His eyes follow the fins without urgency, but with a gentle attentiveness that seems to hold the space together. Each movement he makes sends soft ripples across the dream space, a reminder that even in this fluid, shifting environment, there is harmony and subtle order. Jake's shape-shifting abilities feel different here, not for play or adventure, but as a reflection of thought and emotion, as if his very form mirrors the currents of feeling that drift between all the dreamers present. And then there are the Marcelines, drifting like slow waves of sound. Their presence is not confined to a single form or expression. Some hum quietly, others strum notes that stretch into the far corners of the dream space, their music leaving trails of soft light behind. Every melody seems to connect to something invisible, something shared among all the dreamers. You may not consciously hear each note, but you feel its resonance, gentle, lingering, comforting. It reminds you that even across universes, across timelines, there is a thread of emotion that binds all beings, all selves, all echoes of who they are. The threshold itself responds to the subtle interplay of beings. Light curves around fins as if embracing their presence. Shadows stretch in soft arcs where Marceline's music passes, creating delicate patterns that pulse with rhythm. Jake's laughter, or the memory of it, echoes faintly, carrying warmth across threads that connect distant selves. It is not a loud or jarring presence. It is quiet, immersive, like the gentle hum of the world beneath your ears when you pause to listen at night. You may find yourself noticing small connections forming among the dreamers. A fin reaches out to a glowing thread, and a jake curls around it in a silent gesture of support. A Marceline's song drifts close to a fin, lingering, and he tilts his head slightly as if understanding something unspoken. These interactions are subtle, almost imperceptible, yet they carry the weight of unspoken truths, the gentle affirmation that even in a space untethered by time or consequence, connection remains possible. And there is no rush here. There is no need to understand, to interpret, or to name what you feel. The threshold allows for a quiet observation, a slow absorption of patterns, colors, sounds, and motions that exist beyond ordinary perception. You may feel the pull of curiosity, the desire to reach forward, to touch, to interact. Yet it is enough to simply exist, to breathe alongside these echoes of Finn, Jake, and Marceline, and to allow yourself to sink deeper into the rhythm of the space. The dream space is generous with its beauty. Stars drift lazily overhead, their glow not harsh or blinding, but soft, like embers cooling at the end of a quiet fire. Threads of light weave among the dreamers, looping and twisting gently, connecting one being to another. Sometimes a fin follows a thread unconsciously, discovering paths that lead to distant echoes of himself. Sometimes a Jake curls along a luminous curve, observing its motion, sensing the quiet story it tells. Sometimes a Marceline song drifts across multiple threads, carrying with it the memory of a laugh, a sigh, a moment of clarity. And you, sleepyhead, are part of this delicate pattern. Your awareness, gentle and present, allows the dream space to unfold more fully. You notice the quiet moments, the way a Finn tilts his head as he listens, the way a Jake stretches a tiny distance closer to a thread, the way a Marceline's eyes shimmer with the echo of a song long past. You do not interrupt or disturb. You simply witness. And in witnessing, you are connected, as though your very presence tugs softly at the threads that bind the dreamers across countless possibilities. You may begin to sense the subtle hum of energy that underlies all of this, a vibration so low and gentle that it blends seamlessly with the rhythm of your own breathing. It is neither intrusive nor urgent. It is a quiet affirmation that all of these selves, all of these echoes, all of these timelines are part of something larger, something enduring. And while each being, each Finn, Jake, and Marceline, carries their own story, their own weight of experience, together they create a pattern of resonance that exists quietly, endlessly, between the worlds. Here in the threshold of dreams, time feels less linear. Moments stretch and fold gently upon one another. You may catch sight of a Finn you saw moments ago in a different position, as though he has moved through space in a way that defies ordinary perception. You may hear a Jake's laughter echoing faintly, though you are certain you have not seen him shift in that direction. Marceline's song may return in a subtle variation, reminding you that in this space, repetition and change coexist without contradiction. And as you sink deeper into this awareness, a calm realization begins to form. The threshold of dreams is not merely a meeting place. It is a mirror, a sanctuary, a gentle reminder that across all timelines, all choices, all moments, there is the quiet presence of understanding, connection, and possibility. It asks nothing of you but observation, nothing of you but presence, and in return, it offers a sense of belonging that exists beyond the limitations of any one reality. As you linger in the threshold, notice how the space itself seems to breathe alongside you. Every pause, every exhale seems to ripple through the threads of light and color, carrying with it a quiet acknowledgement of your presence. The dream space does not demand attention, nor does it impose urgency. It simply exists, patient, expansive, and gentle, inviting you to sink fully into the soft hum of its being. Here, the ordinary rules of time, distance, and identity are suspended, replaced by a slow, meditative rhythm that feels like the world itself exhaling into the quiet of night. A Finn drifts closer now, his steps almost imperceptible, light as the brushing of clouds against a star. His eyes, familiar yet filled with countless echoes of choice and experience, meet yours briefly. There is no need for words. The understanding flows silently between you. In him you see fragments of courage, moments of vulnerability, and the quiet determination that persists even when all else seems uncertain. Perhaps somewhere a memory stirs, a battle fought, a friend saved, a moment of hesitation, and you feel it not as a story, but as a soft pulse of recognition within your own being. Nearby, a Jake shifts with the lazy, fluid grace that only he can embody. He curls and stretches, forming shapes that are at once playful and purposeful. Each movement seems to communicate subtle guidance, an affirmation that the threads of connection here are strong even when they are unseen. You might feel the warmth of his presence, not as an intrusion, but as a quiet reassurance, like the steady glow of a lantern in the distance. He does not need to speak. His rhythm, his motion, his very being is enough to anchor the space, keeping the threshold steady as it stretches into infinite possibilities. Marceline drifts nearer, her presence carrying the weight of countless melodies and memories. She is light and shadow intertwined, her hair flowing like liquid night, her eyes reflecting histories you have only glimpsed in fragments. Each note she hums seems to ripple gently through the dream space, leaving faint trails of luminescent color behind, touching Finns and Jakes alike. Her music is not loud or commanding, it is reflective, intimate, as though each sound carries a secret shared only in the quietest corners of existence. The echoes of her song wrap around you, leaving a soft warmth in its wake, a reminder that even in vast, infinite spaces, emotion and connection persist. As you observe, you may notice subtle interactions forming between the dreamers, patterns that are almost imperceptible at first. A Finn tilts his head toward another, a silent nod passing between them. A Jake curls gently along a thread of light, responding to shifts in movement elsewhere in the space. Marceline's melody bends toward a distant flicker of color, acknowledging its presence, letting it resonate. Each action is quiet, deliberate, and full of meaning, though it passes without fanfare. These moments illustrate that even within infinite possibilities, subtle harmony and awareness guide the connections between beings. The threshold of dreams encourages introspection, though it is not heavy or demanding. Instead, it invites quiet contemplation, a gentle reflection on who you are, who you could be, and who you have been in countless echoes of possibility. Watching these interactions, you may find yourself pondering the nature of identity, the ways in which each choice, each action, reverberates outward across time and space. You may feel the subtle thrill of understanding that, while realities may differ, the essence of self, the spark of curiosity, courage, and connection remains consistent, glowing softly, always present. Notice how the environment itself seems alive with a gentle responsiveness. Light bends around Finns as if acknowledging their presence. Shadows deepen and shift with Marceline's music, forming ephemeral patterns that feel almost like fleeting memories. Threads of luminescence pulse gently in response to Jake's movements, carrying warmth and rhythm across vast spaces. Even distant echoes of sound, soft and untraceable, seem to form a subtle dialogue with your own awareness. The space is alive not with noise or chaos, but with quiet resonance, a soft vibration that exists in perfect balance with the stillness around it. And you, sleepyhead, are part of this quiet symphony. Your awareness is not intrusive. It is another thread, delicate and integral, weaving gently alongside the Finns, Jakes, and Marcelines. You feel the subtle alignment of breaths, heartbeats, and attention, a convergence that exists beyond the boundaries of any single reality. Here, observation is participation, and participation is gentle, mindful presence. Your mind need not solve or analyze. It only needs to notice, to rest, and to allow the slow unfolding of this space to guide your consciousness deeper into calm reflection. Perhaps now you begin to sense something extraordinary, a faint recognition that the threshold is not merely a meeting place for echoes of other selves. It is a sanctuary, a mirror, a space in which the multiplicity of existence and the quiet constancy of being converge. The Finns carry courage and curiosity. The Jakes carry guidance and balance. The Marcelines carry memory and emotion. And you, lying quietly, present in both observation and subtle interaction, carry awareness. Together, all these threads form a soft, intricate tapestry, luminous yet delicate, ever-shifting yet fundamentally harmonious. Even as you settle into this awareness, the space does not press for comprehension. It simply flows around you, an endless expanse of possibilities, a gentle current that encourages presence over action, reflection over certainty. You may notice fins drifting closer to one another, their interactions small and intimate. A jake stretches slowly, tracing faint patterns through threads of light. Marcelines hum in soft counterpoint, melodies intertwining in ways that resonate quietly with your own mind. Everything exists in a kind of serene balance, fluid yet anchored, infinite yet comprehensible, if only in sensation. And as your own breathing slows further, deepening into the calm rhythm of sleep, you may sense the first gentle stirrings of transition, the way the threshold of dreams begins to prepare you for the deeper currents to come. You are not leaving. Rather, you are merging more fully into the space, allowing its quiet wisdom and gentle resonance to guide you. Each fin, each jake, each Marceline seems to acknowledge your presence with a subtle shift of form, a tilt of the head, a gentle note that hums faintly through the air. It is a recognition without words, a quiet affirmation that the dream space is both yours and infinite, welcoming you to drift without worry or haste. In this moment, sleepy, let yourself feel the vastness and the intimacy simultaneously. Let the threads of light, the melodies, the gentle forms, and the quiet presence of countless selves fold around your awareness. Let your mind soften, your body relax, your heart sink with the gentle pulse of this threshold. And know that in this quiet, in this gentle in-between, you are part of a story that is older than time, broader than worlds, and yet perfectly present in this single, soft moment. Now that we have lingered gently in the threshold of dreams, let us turn our attention to a quiet gathering that exists within its softly glowing corridors, the meeting of fins. Here, in this space between realities, the many versions of Finn step forward, each carrying a fragment of who he is, who he might have been, and who he dreams of becoming. They are not rushing toward a goal, nor are they burdened by expectation. They are simply present, floating, walking, leaning, and observing, as if testing the edges of possibility itself. Imagine for a moment a soft clearing beneath the drifting stars, where light bends around figures as naturally as air around trees. Fins appear here like echoes, each one distinct yet familiar. One may wear the green hat you know so well, the edges worn and frayed from countless adventures. Another might have hair falling freely, unbound by fabric or time, with eyes that carry the quiet weight of experiences beyond the ordinary. Still another might seem younger, untested, curious, staring up at the sky with wide eyes full of wonder and unspoken questions. And yet, despite these differences, there is an unspoken understanding among them, a shared heartbeat of identity that threads through every form. Some fins move slowly, their steps measured as though tasting the air itself, feeling the subtle hum of the dream space. They do not need to speak to communicate. A tilt of the head, a shift of posture, even the way their gaze lingers on a thread of light is enough to convey recognition. They sense one another not as competitors or strangers, but as reflections, fragments of the same essence that stretches across countless timelines. And as they gather, the space around them seems to respond, bending and curving gently to accommodate their presence, creating soft ripples of illumination that mark where their energies converge. Notice how their eyes sometimes meet, not in urgency, but in quiet acknowledgement. The Finn, who is older, more seasoned, nods almost imperceptibly toward the younger version, who in turn tilts his head slightly, absorbing the silent reassurance that courage and resilience exist, regardless of the path taken. Somewhere nearby, a Finn whose experiences have been heavy with loss or solitude, glances softly toward another who radiates lightness and optimism, and in that glance there is no envy, no regret, only the gentle recognition that both states of being are part of the same expansive identity, flowing together like threads of a luminous tapestry. The meeting of fins is not about conversation in the way we are accustomed to. It is a silent, meditative communion, where presence itself is communication. You may feel it as you watch, the small, subtle gestures that carry deep meaning. A fin reaches out, fingertips brushing a glowing thread that weaves through the space, and another fin mirrors the motion. Their movements synchronize, not by instruction, but by instinct and shared essence. Sometimes they circle one another in slow, deliberate arcs, studying differences and similarities alike, acknowledging the countless lives that have led them here. And yet there is room here for solitude as well. Not every fin seeks contact immediately. Some step back into pockets of glowing air, where their thoughts can wander freely. Perhaps one recalls a world filled with adventure and victory, feeling a soft pulse of satisfaction for what was accomplished. Another remembers a moment of hesitation or fear, letting it pass without judgment, merely noticing its place in the continuum of his existence. The dream space does not judge or categorize. It simply holds softly for all variations, allowing them to unfold in their own tempo. You might notice that some fins carry faint traces of other selves within them, subtle echoes of alternate experiences that shimmer like reflected light. A fin may reach for a glowing thread and sense the memory of another, far away, who made a choice differently. It is not confusing or overwhelming. Rather, it is comforting, a reminder that even across infinite possibilities, there is a quiet consistency in the essence of who he is. Each fin, though separate, contains fragments of all the others, as though the many selves are constellations, forming a broader pattern in the night sky. As you continue to watch, you may feel the gentle rhythm of their interaction. Some fins move closer to one another, testing the boundaries of understanding, the possibilities of empathy. One may offer a quiet gesture, a hand extended toward a thread that wavers in hesitation. Another fin reaches, their fingers brushing the same thread, and for a fleeting moment, the space around them glows a little warmer. It is subtle, a soft acknowledgement that understanding does not need words, and that connection can exist across realities without disruption. And here, in this calm, expansive meeting, there is a quiet reflection of identity itself. You might sense it as you breathe along with them. The realization that every fin, in all his variations, carries courage, doubt, hope, and curiosity. Some faces are bright with adventure, others softened by solitude or reflection, yet each carries a shared spark, a thread that links them across the infinite spaces of reality. Watching them, you begin to understand that the essence of fin is not fixed by a single timeline or a single choice. It is fluid, resilient, and luminous, capable of existing in countless forms while remaining fundamentally the same. Even the smallest gestures here are rich with meaning. A fin pauses to watch another trace, a glowing line in the air with a finger. Another shifts slightly, tilting his head as if understanding a thought unspoken. Somewhere off to the side, a fin hums softly, a soundless melody that seems to resonate across threads, carrying comfort and quiet reassurance. The dream space responds to each subtle interaction, folding gently, glowing softly, bending around their movements with a slow, deliberate rhythm. As the many fins continue to gather and drift in this softly glowing expanse, there is a growing sense of quiet recognition. Each one is a mirror of the others, yet each is unique, and the subtle contrasts are as meaningful as the shared essence that binds them. In their meeting, there is no competition, no judgment, only a serene unfolding of understanding, a gentle dance of identity that exists beyond the limitations of any single timeline. And as you observe, Sleepy, you may feel yourself becoming part of this gentle rhythm. Your presence, calm and attentive, seems to ripple faintly through the threads of light connecting the fins. You are not intruding, but participating in a quiet communion that transcends ordinary reality. The space holds you as it does them, acknowledging your awareness with a subtle warmth, a soft pulse that aligns with the slow unfolding of this quiet, luminous meeting. As you continue to watch the many fins gathering in the dream space, you may notice subtle moments of recognition and quiet curiosity. One fin steps lightly across a soft, glowing thread, pausing to observe another who moves with a cautious grace. There is no urgency in their observation, no desire to judge, no pressure to act. It is a gentle, meditative noticing, as though each is acknowledging the presence of the other while remaining fully immersed in his own being. You can sense the slow unfolding of understanding in these silent exchanges, a shared awareness that transcends words. Some fins seem to pause at the edge of the open space, hesitating as though weighing the possibility of reaching out. They stretch a hand toward a thread of light, feeling its warmth, its quiet hum of energy, and then retract slightly, as if savoring the connection from a distance. Nearby, another fin mirrors the motion unconsciously, creating a rhythm that feels like an unspoken conversation, delicate and continuous. The dream space itself seems to pulse in response, light swelling and ebbing in time with these gentle gestures, reminding you that even in silence, there is communication, subtle and profound. Notice how the expressions on the fins' faces shift in response to each other. Some carry the curiosity of youth, bright-eyed and open to discovery, while others hold a quiet melancholy, reflecting on paths not taken, choices deferred, and battles fought. Yet there is no judgment here, only acceptance. Each fin, in his variation, is a reminder that identity is not bound to a single outcome. Courage, curiosity, hope, and even regret can coexist without conflict, creating a quiet harmony that resonates softly through the threads of the dream space. As you watch, a fin may take a small step forward, reaching out toward another with the gentlest of gestures. Perhaps he offers a faint smile, the corners of his lips lifting with the quiet recognition of shared essence. The other fin responds in kind, subtle but deliberate, their interaction leaving a trace in the space around them, a soft glow, a ripple of light that arcs slowly toward the edges of the dream space. These moments are fleeting, yet their impact is profound, a gentle affirmation that connection and understanding are possible even across infinite possibilities. And there are times when a fin pauses entirely, closing his eyes for a moment, letting his presence meld with the ambient hum of the dream space. You may notice a faint warmth radiating from him, a subtle pulse that extends outward, brushing against the forms of other fins. In this stillness, you can almost feel the weight of experiences, both joyful and sorrowful, weaving together into a quiet tapestry of being. Here, even solitude is meaningful, as each fin contributes to the collective resonance simply by existing, by observing, by feeling. In another corner, a younger fin tilts his head toward a thread of light that shimmers with possibilities. He reaches slowly, hesitantly, brushing a fingertip along its surface. Immediately, another fin mirrors the motion, a silent acknowledgement of the potential connection. You may notice how the dream space bends around them, as if the very air accommodates their tentative interaction. The threads of light themselves seem responsive, rippling gently in recognition, carrying a faint warmth that touches all who linger nearby. There is a quiet poetry in the way the fins move through this space. Some drift slowly, arms trailing through the glowing threads, while others take careful, deliberate steps, pausing to notice the subtle shifts in color and motion. Each movement seems intentional yet effortless, as though the dream space and its inhabitants exist in a slow, shared rhythm. And you, lying quietly in your own awareness, can feel yourself aligning with that rhythm, each inhale and exhale synchronizing gently with the soft pulse of life around you. Even as more fins appear from distant threads, the space does not feel crowded or chaotic. There is room for all variations, room for quiet observation, room for reflection. Some fins cluster together briefly, exchanging silent gestures, and then drift apart again, exploring other corners of the luminous expanse. Others linger near glowing threads that seem to respond specifically to their presence, bending and curving in ways that feel like subtle conversation. Everything moves with a slow, deliberate grace, each action contributing to the larger pattern of connection without forcing attention or effort. As you continue to observe, a sense of gentle reflection begins to form. You may notice that each fin, while unique in his experiences and expressions, carries echoes of the others within him. A moment of laughter from one resonates faintly with the memory of courage in another. A gesture of hesitation mirrors a silent acknowledgement of doubt elsewhere. And in this quiet mirroring, the dream space itself seems to pulse softly, as though confirming that all these selves, all these variations, are threads of a singular luminous essence. Here, the meeting of fins becomes more than observation. It is an exploration of identity, a slow meditation on the multiplicity of being. Each fin represents a path taken, a choice made, or a possibility imagined. Some carry scars, visible or invisible, reminders of trials and victories. Others radiate the untested optimism of discovery. And in the gentle interplay between them, you begin to understand that the essence of fin is not defined by any single form, nor by a particular timeline. It exists fluidly, resiliently, and luminously, reflecting the infinite possibilities of experience and choice. The dream space allows for quiet connection without urgency. You may notice fins leaning toward one another, sharing faint glances, small nods, or gestures that ripple softly through the threads of light. Sometimes they mirror each other's movements unconsciously, tracing similar arcs or hovering near shared glowing threads. These interactions are not performative. They are deeply natural, a soft acknowledgement that even across infinite possibilities, resonance exists. You may feel that resonance brush against your own awareness, a gentle hum that aligns subtly with your breath, your heartbeat, your presence. And in the stillness between these interactions, there is room for reflection. Watching these versions of fin, you might sense a quiet truth about your own nature, about courage, curiosity, and resilience. You may realize that, like the fins, you carry fragments of countless possibilities within yourself, threads of potential that shimmer quietly, waiting for acknowledgement. And in witnessing their gentle communion, you are invited to breathe, to notice, and to let the rhythm of the space guide you into a state of calm, attentive presence. As you continue to linger in this softly illuminated space, you may notice how the fins begin to move in ways that feel almost instinctive, drawn toward one another by quiet threads of recognition. Some approach slowly, tentative yet filled with an unspoken curiosity, while others drift lightly across the shimmering expanse, observing with the gentle attentiveness that only comes from countless echoes of experience. Every step, every gesture carries weight, not of obligation or urgency, but of understanding, of acknowledgement, of the quiet resonance of shared existence. Some fins pause beneath the clusters of floating light, their eyes following threads that weave in and out like luminous rivers. They reach toward these streams, fingers brushing softly against the warmth and gentle vibration, and you may notice how the dream space responds. Light bends slightly, pulsing in subtle recognition, creating arcs of soft color that stretch toward distant figures. Another fin mirrors the movement, a silent conversation forming without words, a communication carried through gesture and presence rather than speech. It is here, in these quiet interactions, that the true magic of the meeting emerges, a recognition that each self, though separate, is bound together by a shared essence, a luminous thread that exists beyond the confines of time and reality. Some fins pause for moments of reflection, leaning against softly glowing structures or floating gently in the calm expanse, allowing themselves to absorb the presence of others without interruption. You may notice the way their expressions shift subtly, a flicker of understanding, a hint of compassion, a gentle acknowledgement of paths taken and paths untraveled. These moments are small, almost imperceptible, yet they carry immense weight within the dream space, creating ripples of light and warmth that reach outward, touching every being present. As you observe, you might notice a particularly quiet fin, standing apart from the others, eyes lifted toward the drifting stars. Perhaps he carries the weight of experiences you have never seen, moments of doubt or hesitation, victories and regrets folded delicately into the soft contours of his being. And yet, even in his solitude, there is connection. A thread of light arcs gently toward him, carrying with it the subtle warmth of recognition from a fin elsewhere. He reaches slowly, almost instinctively, and the light bends softly around his fingers, bridging distance and difference with gentle grace. In that touch, you may feel the quiet truth of the dream space, that understanding, connection, and empathy can exist even when words are absent. Notice how laughter sometimes drifts faintly across the space, soft and warm, like a memory brushing lightly against your consciousness. It may come from a younger fin discovering the joy of small wonders, or from an older fin recalling adventures lived long ago. The sound does not rush or demand attention. It merely exists, wrapping around the threads of light and weaving a subtle tapestry of shared experience. And somewhere nearby, another fin tilts his head in response, the faintest curve of a smile acknowledging that joy, however small, is recognized and mirrored across the infinite expanse. Some fins begin to explore more deliberately, tracing the luminous threads with careful fingers, or following them through gentle arcs of movement. As they do, patterns emerge, not rigid, not predetermined, but natural and flowing, a soft dance of presence and awareness. A fin might follow a thread to its end, only to find another waiting, mirroring the motion with the same quiet attentiveness. These movements create gentle arcs of light, threads looping softly between figures, forming subtle constellations that hum faintly with the resonance of shared being. And yet, even as these connections form, there is space for quiet introspection. Some fins pause entirely, closing their eyes, letting the rhythm of the dream space flow through them. You may feel it as you watch, the calm, almost imperceptible pulse of their awareness, blending with the gentle hum of the threads, the subtle vibration of light and color that exists beyond perception, yet resonates deeply within the mind. It is a quiet meditation on identity, a gentle acknowledgement that each version of Finn carries a fragment of all others, that courage, curiosity, hope, and reflection coexist harmoniously across infinite possibilities. You may notice a particularly vivid moment where a fin reaches out, touching a thread of light that bends in response. Immediately, another fin mirrors the motion, fingertips brushing in near alignment. Light arcs between them in a soft, luminous bridge, carrying warmth and quiet acknowledgement. Perhaps they tilt their heads toward one another, acknowledging unspoken understanding, a mutual recognition of the paths that brought them here and the countless alternatives that exist beyond. The dream space responds to these subtle interactions, pulsing faintly, bathing all present in a gentle, luminous glow that feels almost like a heartbeat. As the meeting continues, the fins begin to form subtle clusters, not rigid or confined, but flowing naturally with the gentle currents of the space. Some drift slowly in arcs that echo the paths of stars above, while others hover near glowing threads, absorbing and observing. You may notice that their presence alone is enough to create quiet harmony. The space does not need rigid organization or instruction. Instead, it responds to the shared essence of being, bending and curving to accommodate connection, reflection, and gentle interaction. And here, Sleepy, you may sense a quiet truth emerging. The meeting of fins is not about action or achievement, nor about measuring worth or success. It is about presence, reflection, and acknowledgement. Each fin, while distinct, carries echoes of every other. Each gesture, glance, or movement is a subtle meditation on identity and the multiplicity of being. And as you watch, you too are drawn into this rhythm. Your awareness, gently entwined with the threads of connection, your breath and heartbeat aligning softly with the calm, luminous pulse of the dream space itself. Even now, in the stillness between interactions, the fins exude a gentle energy that hums faintly against your consciousness. It is not overwhelming or demanding, but subtle, like the sensation of a breeze brushing across your skin on a warm, quiet night. Each fin, through presence alone, contributes to the harmony of the space. Some seem to radiate quiet courage, others carry reflective serenity, while still others shimmer with the untested optimism of possibility. Together they create a luminous chorus, a gentle affirmation of identity, resilience, and the endless potential of being. As the fins continue to drift and gather in the softly glowing expanse, you may notice a subtle shift in the rhythm of their interactions. What began as quiet observation now becomes something more delicate, a gentle weaving of awareness, presence, and understanding. Some fins lean slightly closer to one another, not with urgency, but with a tender curiosity, acknowledging the shared threads of essence that link them across infinite possibilities. Every small movement, every tilt of a head or soft gesture carries meaning, though it is expressed entirely without words. Perhaps a fin reaches out, fingertips brushing along a glowing thread that arcs gracefully toward another. The second fin mirrors the motion instinctively, and for a fleeting moment, the space around them brightens softly, bathing both in a warm, gentle glow. It is not spectacle, not dramatic flourish, but a quiet affirmation that connection and recognition can exist without haste or expectation. Even the smallest gesture resonates here, amplified by the calm expansiveness of the dream space, reminding you that subtlety and patience are as powerful as action and intent. You may notice a particularly quiet fin, standing apart from the others, eyes lifted toward a softly glowing cluster of stars. His presence is calm, contemplative, and yet carries the faint weight of countless experiences. He is aware of the other fins without needing to approach them, and his stillness creates a subtle anchor in the space, a reminder that reflection and observation are integral parts of understanding oneself. Nearby, another fin drifts toward him, a mirror of curiosity, and quiet attention, and together they form a gentle dialogue, a silent acknowledgement that even solitude is part of the tapestry of being. Some fins pause beneath floating threads of light, tracing them slowly with their fingers, exploring the curves and undulations as if mapping unseen possibilities. Each movement leaves faint trails, glowing softly in the ambient light, arcs of color that ripple outward to touch other fins in the distance. You may feel these ripples brushing against your awareness, subtle pulses that align with your breathing, reminding you that in this space, observation and reflection are forms of participation, and that simply being present is enough to create resonance. Notice the contrasts among the fins as well. One may carry the exuberance of adventure, his eyes wide, movements fluid and energetic, yet still soft in their grace. Another may bear quiet melancholy, reflecting on battles fought, losses endured, or choices deferred. And yet, these contrasts do not conflict. The dream space absorbs and harmonizes them, creating a gentle balance that allows each variation to exist fully, while remaining part of the shared essence that threads through all. You may feel a quiet reassurance in this, a soft confirmation that identity is complex, multifaceted, and luminous in its diversity. A particularly striking moment emerges when two fins approach the same thread simultaneously, fingertips brushing it together in near-perfect synchronicity. Their eyes meet briefly, recognition passing silently, and the thread glows faintly brighter, as though acknowledging the resonance of shared presence. This simple act, subtle as it may be, carries the weight of empathy, understanding, and quiet communion. You may sense the gentle pulse of this moment echo outward, brushing other fins, other threads, and even your own consciousness, weaving a delicate web of connection across the space. As the meeting unfolds, you may observe patterns forming, not rigidly or artificially, but naturally, like stars aligning in slow arcs across the night sky. Fins drift together in soft clusters, pausing to acknowledge one another, then drifting apart to explore other corners of the luminous expanse. Threads of light loop gracefully between them, forming intricate, almost imperceptible networks of shared essence. And in these networks, you begin to sense the underlying harmony of the threshold itself, a rhythm that flows quietly and endlessly, responsive to the movements, breaths, and presence of every fin within it. There are moments of quiet humor as well, gentle and fleeting, like a smile that appears and vanishes with soft laughter. A fin might mimic another's posture just slightly, and the other responds with a subtle tilt of the head, a silent acknowledgement of the playful mirroring. These moments do not disrupt the calm. Rather, they deepen it, adding texture and warmth, reminding you that even in a space devoted to reflection and quiet observation, lightness and joy can coexist seamlessly with contemplation. Some fins begin to close their eyes, letting the gentle rhythm of the space flow through them, a quiet meditation on the multiplicity of being. You may notice that even as they do so, their presence is palpable, a subtle vibration threading through the luminous expanse, touching others with the faint pulse of existence. It is here, in these silent, reflective moments, that the dream space reveals its most tender magic, the ability to hold infinite variations of self simultaneously, each distinct yet interconnected, each observed yet entirely free to exist in its own way. You may begin to sense that the fins are learning from one another, not in a conventional way, but through subtle reflection and resonance. A glance, a gesture, a mirrored motion, all convey insights about courage, doubt, resilience, and curiosity. They teach one another softly, without instruction or expectation. And you, sleepyhead, are witness to this quiet exchange. The space itself seems to hum in acknowledgement, a slow, gentle pulse that carries the understanding that all forms of being, all versions of self, are worthy of attention, care, and gentle recognition. Even as new fins drift in from distant threads, the space remains serene. There is no sense of crowding, no urgency or imbalance. The dream space bends softly, making room for each arrival, each subtle interaction, each quiet reflection. You may notice a fin pause briefly, reaching for a glowing thread and sensing the echo of another self nearby. Their fingers brush almost unconsciously, and in that gentle contact, a ripple of warmth and light spreads outward, touching fins who are distant yet connected, reinforcing the gentle truth that connection transcends space, time, and circumstance. And as the many fins move, pause, interact, and reflect, a profound quiet settles over the space. The meeting is neither beginning nor ending. It exists as a continuous flow of presence, awareness, and gentle resonance. You may feel yourself sinking deeper into the rhythm of this space, your breath slowing, your heart sinking subtly with the pulse of the threads and the quiet, luminous cadence of fins moving and existing together. Here, the multiplicity of self is not confusing or overwhelming. It is beautiful, patient, and infinitely gentle. A soft reminder that identity, courage, and understanding can exist across infinite possibilities without losing coherence or grace. In this calm, reflective space, you begin to sense the quiet truth of the meeting of fins, that identity is fluid yet consistent, complex yet harmonious, and infinitely resilient. Each fin contributes to a shared tapestry of existence, each movement, glance, and breath weaving into a gentle rhythm that hums softly through the dream space. And you, quietly observing, are part of this rhythm, aligned in presence, attentive, and at peace, ready to drift further into the luminous flow of reflection, understanding, and serene connection. Now that we have lingered among the many fins, let us gently turn our attention to another presence in this quiet, luminous dream space. The many jakes. Here in the softly flowing threads of the threshold, the jakes stretch, curl, and shimmer in their endless shapes, creating a chorus not of words, but of motion, presence, and subtle resonance. They are as fluid as the light that bends around them, yet they carry with them a grounding warmth, a familiar rhythm that both steadies and comforts. Picture the scene as you drift quietly along with your thoughts. The jakes appear in every form you might imagine, some large, some small, some elongated, others compressed, each echoing the endless possibilities of existence. They move with languid grace, stretching their limbs across the softly glowing threads, sometimes forming gentle arcs of motion that trace patterns in the air like ribbons of living light. Their forms shift, subtly or dramatically, responding to the currents of the dream space, to the presence of fins, to the quiet attention of all who dwell here. You may notice how each jake seems to carry a unique rhythm within him, yet they harmonize effortlessly when gathered. One stretches his body slowly along a glowing arc, every ripple in his fur and shape a quiet meditation on movement. Another coils and uncurls near a floating thread, observing it with an almost imperceptible attentiveness. And somewhere, perhaps at the edge of your perception, a jake curls into a soft, concentric spiral. The motion so fluid, it feels like watching a ripple across calm water. Together, their movements form a chorus of presence, a gentle symphony of being that vibrates softly through the threads of the dream space. As you watch, you might notice that jakes respond to the fins in subtle ways. A fin reaches toward a thread of light, and a jake stretches gently to follow, not as a guard or guide, but as a participant, a witness to the quiet exploration. When a fin tilts his head toward another, a jake nearby curls lightly, sending a ripple of acknowledgement through the space. There is no urgency in these interactions. There is only the soft, deliberate dance of attention, awareness, and care, moving at a pace that invites observation, reflection, and gentle immersion. Some jakes choose to remain near clusters of glowing threads, curling around them as if to cradle the light itself. Their fur shimmers with faint pulses, tiny waves of luminescence that echo the movements of fins nearby. You may notice that when one jake stretches along a thread, a subtle arc of light extends behind him, linking to another jake who mirrors his motion. These interactions are quiet and meditative, forming intricate, almost imperceptible networks of connection that hum faintly across the dream space, brushing your awareness in the gentlest of ways. The chorus is not only visual, but almost tactile, as if the movements themselves create a vibration that flows through the space. When a jake stretches and curls, the air seems to ripple softly. When he shifts with deliberate grace, light arcs and pulses respond, bending toward others in harmonious rhythm. Even when no two jakes interact directly, the presence of each contributes to the subtle, encompassing energy of the threshold. It is a gentle affirmation of existence, a reminder that movement and awareness are forms of communication as quiet and meaningful as the softest spoken word. Some jakes begin to mirror one another unconsciously, creating patterns that echo softly across the space. One may extend a limb in a slow arc, and another follows, tracing a parallel path that bends and curves like twin streams of light. You may notice how these mirrored movements ripple outward, connecting other jakes in faint, resonant waves. It is a choreography that emerges naturally, not imposed or directed, yet perfectly synchronized, as if the space itself has taught them to move in harmony. You may notice moments of gentle playfulness as well. A jake might curl around a glowing thread only to flick it gently, sending a faint pulse along its length. Another jake responds in kind, elongating and twisting with soft undulations, and a ripple of warmth passes through the space. There is no urgency, no spectacle, only quiet interaction, subtle acknowledgement, and a soft, continuous weaving of presence. The dream space hums faintly in response, a slow, gentle rhythm that threads through the motions, touching every being present, including you. And as you drift alongside this chorus, you may begin to sense something extraordinary. The jakes embody a unique reflection of the fins themselves, where the fins carry courage, curiosity, and the quiet resonance of identity. The jakes reflect flexibility, adaptability, and the gentle guidance of awareness. They bend and stretch not to control, but to accompany, to harmonize, and to witness. Their presence is both grounding and expansive, a paradox that feels natural in the flowing logic of the dream space. Some jakes coil into spirals that hover, suspended in soft light, their movement almost hypnotic in its rhythm. Others stretch long and thin, arcs of form tracing invisible curves that touch distant threads and figures. You may notice how these movements create subtle visual echoes, patterns that repeat and mirror one another in ways that are not identical but deeply connected. It is a quiet choreography, a song without sound, a meditation in motion that carries meaning only to those patient enough to observe. As you continue to notice the jakes, you may see how their presence interacts with the fins in nuanced ways. A fin might trace a luminous thread, and a jake nearby follows the motion, rippling gently along the arc. Another fin pauses, tilting his head, and a jake curls softly beside him, as if offering companionship without intrusion. These interactions are delicate, understated, and profoundly calming. They reflect the gentle balance of guidance and observation, the quiet assurance that connection can exist without force, that presence alone is meaningful. Some jakes extend themselves toward distant points in the space, arcs of body and light reaching across the luminous expanse. You may notice how other jakes respond subtly, bending and curling in soft synchronization. Threads of glow trace these interactions, connecting one to another in delicate, radiant patterns. And within these patterns, you can sense the quiet logic of the dream space, a resonance that flows naturally, infinitely, and without effort. Every motion, however small, contributes to the chorus, a reminder that harmony emerges not from control, but from awareness, attention, and gentle participation. The chorus is not chaotic, nor is it rigid. It exists in a balance between movement and stillness, action and reflection. Some jakes drift in slow arcs, others pause. Some coil around threads, while others extend themselves toward distant forms. And yet, despite this apparent freedom, the space feels perfectly ordered, resonant, and harmonious, each presence contributing to the slow, gentle rhythm that hums softly beneath the surface. You may notice your own breath aligning with this rhythm, a subtle sinking of awareness, as if the threshold itself invites you into the calm cadence of its chorus. As the chorus of jakes unfolds, you may notice how their movements begin to weave together in a rhythm that feels almost like breathing, slow and deliberate, yet infinitely varied. Some stretch along luminous threads, following gentle arcs that rise and fall like waves, while others curl and coil in soft spirals, their shapes fluid and ever-shifting. Each motion is deliberate, yet effortless, a quiet dance of presence and awareness, creating a harmony that is both expansive and intimate. You may feel the subtle pulse of this rhythm brushing against your own consciousness, sinking gently with your breathing, lulling your mind into calm observation. Some jakes drift toward clusters of fins, not with intent to lead or guide, but to reflect, to mirror, to resonate. Their elongated forms coil lightly around threads of glowing energy, bending and twisting in ways that echo the fin's motions. You may notice a jake stretching along a luminous path just as a fin's fingers trace it, a near-perfect mirroring that radiates quiet acknowledgement. It is in these gentle, almost imperceptible gestures that the chorus reveals its deepest purpose, not to act, but to exist harmoniously, to accompany, to respond, and to provide a subtle, grounding resonance for all who dwell here. The interactions among jakes are quiet, yet profound. Some curl toward one another in mirrored spirals, arcs of light extending from their forms to connect across the space. Others stretch across distant threads, creating bridges of presence that ripple softly through the dream space. You may feel these ripples brushing against your awareness, subtle currents of energy that carry warmth, recognition, and calm. In this gentle flow, you begin to sense the unspoken understanding shared among all jakes. The flexibility, responsiveness, and quiet attention are forms of wisdom, capable of bridging differences, harmonizing chaos, and creating serene connection. There is also a playful undertone that emerges, delicate and fleeting. A jake might unfurl suddenly, extending long limbs to brush a glowing thread in a teasing arc. Another responds with a slow rolling twist, their forms coiling and uncoiling like waves catching light. It is soft, understated, and entirely voluntary, a quiet dance of acknowledgement and delight. And in this playful interaction, the dream space seems to shimmer more brightly, the threads of light bending subtly, responding to the gentle humor and fluid grace of their motion. You may feel a soft warmth radiating through the space, a gentle vibration that carries the joy of existence without demand or urgency. Some jakes pause entirely, curling themselves into compact forms that hover in the air, observing rather than interacting. You may notice that their stillness carries weight as meaningful as any movement. They radiate a quiet, anchoring energy, a soft pulse that stabilizes the dream space, allowing others to move freely without chaos. A fin nearby may glance toward a still Jake, sensing the presence of calm reassurance. And in that glance, a silent acknowledgement passes. Presence alone is enough here. No words, no gestures, no performance is required. Observation and awareness are participation, and in that gentle truth, the dream space flourishes. The chorus is also musical, though not in sound as you might imagine it. The movement of each Jake, the subtle shifts of light, and the ripples of energy across the threads create a resonance that is both visual and felt. It is a quiet symphony of motion, a song without notes, where arcs, curves, coils, and stretches form a language of presence. You may notice that when one Jake stretches toward a distant point, others follow instinctively, creating waves of motion that echo across the space. These waves intersect, overlap, and diverge, forming intricate flowing patterns that hum faintly through the threshold, brushing gently against your own awareness. Some Jakes begin to form subtle interactions with multiple fins simultaneously. One stretches along a glowing thread as a fin's hand traces it, while another coils softly nearby, reflecting a different motion from a second fin. Their shapes bend and respond to each other in a slow, deliberate choreography that feels natural and spontaneous, a quiet meditation on connection and alignment. You may notice how light arcs from one to another, tracing invisible paths that link forms across the space, creating a tapestry of soft radiance that glows with the calm certainty of presence. In moments of reflection, you may see a Jake pause mid-stretch, body elongated yet relaxed, eyes or what might be eyes, softly observing the surrounding fins. Another Jake responds subtly, curling near a thread of light that vibrates faintly in response. These micro-interactions are the heartbeat of the chorus, small yet significant expressions of attention, awareness, and empathy. You may sense a quiet reverence in the space, a soft understanding that even subtle gestures are imbued with meaning and resonance in this expansive dream. And as you drift further into observation, you may notice patterns emerging across the chorus that feel almost like language. One Jake stretches along an arc, another mirrors the shape in parallel, a third traces a spiral in counterpoint. These patterns intersect and overlap, not rigidly, not mechanically, but as natural flows of energy and awareness. You may feel a soft hum within your own consciousness, a gentle attunement to the rhythm, a quiet invitation to let your mind relax, drift, and become part of this flowing chorus without thought, without worry, simply present in the calm resonance of being. Some Jakes extend themselves toward distant forms in the space, arcs of body and like connecting with other Jakes and fins in delicate bridges. You may notice the slow, deliberate grace in these movements, a choreography of empathy and resonance. Their forms bend and shift without strain, responding instinctively to the needs, movements, and presence of those around them. It is a slow, harmonious flow that evokes both wonder and tranquility, a quiet reminder that connection does not require force, that harmony exists naturally when attention, presence, and gentle awareness guide interaction. The chorus of Jakes moves with fluid grace, weaving together threads of light and energy that ripple softly through the threshold. Each stretch, coil, and shift contributes to a larger pattern, a living symphony of motion that exists without effort, without expectation, yet resonates deeply. You may notice how even the smallest gesture, a curl of a limb or a gentle unrolling along a thread, echoes softly, reinforcing the quiet logic of the dream space. That movement, presence, and awareness are forms of expression, and that even in silence, every being contributes to the calm, luminous rhythm that hums gently through this infinite meeting of selves. As the chorus of jakes flows gently across the softly glowing threads of the dream space, you may begin to notice an even deeper layer of rhythm emerging. Their movements are no longer merely individual expressions. They have become a collective meditation, a dance of presence that stretches across the luminous expanse. Each curl, each stretch, each undulating ripple through their forms resonates quietly with all that surrounds them. Even the fins are affected, their gestures slowing in harmony, their breaths deepening as if drawn to the subtle pulse of the jakes' shared energy. Some jakes begin to intertwine their forms, not in a tight knot or rigid structure, but in delicate, flowing arcs that loop and spiral around one another. You may notice a pair mirroring a slow, unbroken arc, fingertips and tail-like extensions brushing lightly against glowing threads, the soft resonance echoing across the space. These arcs are both gentle and deliberate, conveying a sense of mutual awareness, understanding, and support. They remind you, sleepyhead, that even in the quietest spaces, connection can exist without words or force, emerging naturally through observation, care, and presence. Notice how some jakes pause mid-motion, extending only part of themselves toward distant forms, their bodies flowing like liquid light. Another jake may respond by gently arching to meet that form, a delicate recognition passing through their shared resonance. These micro-interactions ripple outward in patterns that are at once chaotic and harmonious, tracing invisible pathways of energy that connect all beings in the space. The threads of light that bend and shimmer around them feel alive, responsive, reflecting the quiet intelligence and empathy of each movement. There is also a soft, playful undercurrent that threads through the chorus. A jake may unfurl suddenly, a coil snapping lightly through the air, only to curl again in a slower, more deliberate arcs. Another mirrors the motion with subtle variation, creating a ripple that brushes against nearby forms. The effect is mesmerizing, hypnotic even, yet it remains gentle, almost like a lullaby sung in movement rather than sound. You may sense the faint warmth of amusement, the quiet joy of living and stretching freely, shared across all who observe and participate. Some jakes appear to engage in more deliberate mirroring of the fin's presence. When a fin stretches a hand along a glowing thread, a nearby jake extends a limb in parallel, tracing the arc with careful attention. If the fin pauses to observe the thread or another fin, the jake's body seems to respond with subtle shifts, curling, arching, or hovering in a manner that reflects acknowledgement without intrusion. In these moments, the dream space feels alive, a gentle network of reciprocal awareness, reminding you that understanding and companionship need not be loud or direct. Presence itself is enough. Other jakes form loose, spiraling clusters, their bodies coiling and uncoiling in soft waves, arcs of motion that loop and twist in patterns reminiscent of flowing water. You may notice that the light that shimmers along their forms grows subtly brighter when these clusters interact with others nearby, a quiet confirmation that their collective rhythm is shaping the environment. The arcs, coils, and extensions of their bodies form delicate constellation in the space, patterns of motion and resonance that seem almost like a silent map of awareness, empathy, and reflection. There are also moments of quiet introspection within the chorus. A jake may curl himself into a compact form, floating in gentle suspension, and you may notice the stillness radiating a soft pulse, a grounding vibration that spreads slowly through the dream space. Another Jake nearby mirrors the calm, extending a limb along a glowing thread without moving too quickly or too far. Their stillness is not inactivity, it is presence, a meditation on the weight and lightness of being. Even in these quiet moments, the chorus continues to communicate, to harmonize, and to contribute to the overall rhythm of the dream space. At times, Jakes seem to trace invisible paths through the air, arcs that stretch far across the luminous expanse, intersecting with other forms in a choreography that feels almost organic. You may notice how other Jakes respond instinctively, bending, curling, or stretching to align with the motion, creating overlapping waves of light and energy. These patterns are not rigid or pre-planned. They emerge naturally, a subtle, slow dance of intuition and resonance, reflecting the interwoven nature of presence, awareness, and being. The chorus of Jakes is also deeply reflective, mirroring not only each other but the emotions and energies of nearby fins. A fin pausing in thought may cause a nearby Jake to curl gently, a subtle acknowledgement of quiet contemplation. A fin who stretches toward a distant thread may find a Jake already extending a form in response, creating a soft echo of intent. These gentle reflections, subtle as they are, ripple outward through the space, touching distant forms and threads, carrying quiet affirmation that each action, each presence, matters in the collective tapestry of being. You may notice how the chorus shifts and flows in waves, ebbing and rising with the collective awareness of the dream space. Some Jakes stretch long and slow, arcs forming delicate bridges to distant threads and figures. Others coil lightly, hovering or rotating in space with careful precision. The resulting patterns of light and motion feel like a living network, a luminous fabric that holds and supports every being present. The harmony of these forms is not static. It is fluid, responsive, infinitely gentle, and deeply calming, inviting you to drift along with it, weightless, attentive, and serene. Even in moments of silence, the chorus hums with subtle energy. Threads of light bend softly, arcs of movement continue in gentle undulations, and the combined presence of all Jakes creates a quiet, vibrational resonance that seems to cradle the fins, the threads, and even you, sleepyhead, in its gentle embrace. It is a chorus without voice, a song without sound, yet profoundly expressive. Every curl, every stretch, every coil carries meaning, weaving together awareness, empathy, and connection into a flowing, meditative symphony. And as you continue to observe, you may notice a subtle truth. The chorus of Jakes exists not to dominate or direct, but to accompany, to reflect, and to harmonize. Their movements are meditative, their presence grounding, their resonance reassuring. They teach, not through instruction, but by being. Their chorus is a gentle reminder that flexibility, empathy, and awareness are forms of wisdom, and that even in silence, existence itself can create beauty, meaning, and calm. Here in this expansive, luminous threshold, the chorus of Jakes continues endlessly, a flowing, breathing network of motion and presence. Each interaction, each ripple, each reflection is part of a larger pattern that resonates gently across the dream space. You may feel your own consciousness aligning with this rhythm, your breath softening, your heartbeat sinking subtly, as if the very essence of calm is being shared and mirrored through the infinite forms of the Jakes. As you continue to drift through this softly illuminated dream space, you may notice that the Jakes begin to form subtle harmonies with one another, not through sound, but through movement, resonance, and the gentle bending of light. Some extend themselves across long, glowing threads, arcs of form stretching toward distant points in the expanse, only to curl gently and return, leaving behind faint trails of luminescence that shimmer softly, like echoes in a quiet room. Another Jake mirrors the motion with slight variation, creating an interplay of arcs and coils that radiates outward in delicate waves, touching fins and other Jakes alike. There is a profound serenity in this choreography, a calm that does not demand attention, but invites it, slowly and without pressure. You may notice that even the smallest gestures carry weight. A subtle coil, a careful curl, a gentle stretch along a thread. Each action leaves a quiet trace in the dream space, rippling softly through the glowing arcs and curves, merging imperceptibly with other movements to form a living tapestry of presence. And within that tapestry, you may sense the essence of the Jakes themselves, flexible, responsive, and infinitely gentle, a quiet anchor in a space of infinite possibilities. Some Jakes choose to pause mid-motion, curling delicately around threads of light, their stillness as expressive as movement. You may notice how other Jakes instinctively respond, mirroring the calm, extending a limb, or coiling softly nearby. The dream space itself seems to settle in these moments, threads of luminescence pulsing slowly in acknowledgement, as if breathing along with the rhythm of the chorus. You may feel the resonance of these pauses, the subtle vibration of presence, aligning softly with your own awareness, a gentle invitation to slow your thoughts and drift quietly with the unfolding flow. Playfulness persists, delicate and fleeting, woven seamlessly into the reflective rhythm. A Jake may flick a glowing thread, sending a tiny ripple across the space, and another Jake responds with a gentle coil, a subtle spin, or a soft undulation that mirrors the motion. These interactions are quiet, understated, yet they carry warmth, lightness, and joy, like the softest ripple across a still pond. You may notice that even the fins nearby respond subtly, shifting their posture or tilting ahead in acknowledgement of the playful energy, creating a gentle feedback loop of calm, harmonious interaction. As the chorus continues, patterns emerge naturally, flowing like rivers of light and presence. Some Jakes form spiraling clusters, arcs, and coils weaving through each other without collision, creating delicate constellations of motion that ripple softly across the dream space. Others stretch along threads that extend far across the luminous expanse, intersecting with distant forms and creating bridges of subtle resonance. These patterns are never rigid or forced. They unfold effortlessly, a quiet reminder that harmony is a natural consequence of presence, attentiveness, and gentle interaction. You may notice that the Jake's movements are often reflective, mirroring not only one another, but the surrounding fins and the energy of the threads themselves. A fin leaning over a glowing arc may draw a nearby Jake into a gentle stretch, the soft extension of limbs tracing the shape of the motion. Another fin's hesitation might elicit a slow, curling movement from a distant Jake, a quiet acknowledgement that reflects, without intruding, the subtle ebb and flow of attention, curiosity, and shared awareness. Even in moments of stillness, the Jake's presence is profound. They hover in gentle suspension, bodies coiled or partially extended, radiating soft pulses of warmth and luminescence. These pauses anchor the space, providing a subtle stability that allows motion and interaction elsewhere to unfold naturally. You may notice how light arcs bend slightly around these still forms, as if the space itself recognizes and honors their quiet presence. And in this calm, gentle awareness, you may feel your own thoughts slowing, your mind becoming a receptive participant in the rhythm of the dream space. The collective resonance of the Jakes forms a subtle, continuous hum, a quiet vibration that seems to touch every being within the space. It is not a sound you hear with your ears, but a sensation you feel, a gentle awareness that moves through your consciousness like a soft tea. You may notice how the interplay of movement, stillness arcs and coils creates an almost meditative cadence, a slow, harmonious rhythm that invites deep reflection, calm presence, and gentle observation. Some jakes interact with multiple fins at once, their forms extending along threads that connect distant points, curling or stretching in subtle acknowledgement of each figure's presence. The resulting patterns are intricate yet effortless, a tapestry of motion and resonance that flows naturally across the luminous expanse. You may sense the subtle logic of these interactions, the quiet understanding that connection and harmony emerge organically when awareness, attention, and care guide movement. As you drift alongside this chorus, you may notice the way light responds to every gesture. Threads shimmer in acknowledgement, arcs bend gently, and subtle pulses of luminescence flow outward, tracing the quiet paths of awareness through the space. Every stretch, curl, and coil becomes a small affirmation of presence, a meditation on flexibility, empathy, and resonance. The jakes do not command or direct. They embody the quiet wisdom of accompaniment, the gentle power of being fully present without effort or expectation. And in this quiet, flowing rhythm, you may feel a subtle truth settling within your mind and heart. The chorus of jakes is a reflection of harmony, patience, and attentive presence. Their movements remind you that connection can be gentle, understanding can be silent, and awareness itself is an expression of care. Even in a space of infinite possibilities, even among countless forms and variations, the soft resonance of presence is enough to create calm, beauty, and balance. Here in this luminous threshold, the chorus of jakes continues endlessly, arcs and coils flowing together in a living meditation of motion and awareness. Each gesture, each stretch, each pause contributes to the quiet harmony of the dream space. And as you watch, you may find yourself sinking gently into that rhythm, your breath softening, your heartbeat aligning, and your mind becoming a part of the calm, luminous, endlessly flowing chorus of jakies. Now that we have wandered among the many fins and flowed alongside the chorus of jakes, it is time to turn our gaze to another presence in this quiet, luminous threshold, the Marceline. Here in the soft, endless space between universes, the Marcelines gather in gentle clusters, their forms ethereal and fluid, weaving memories and reflections into the very air. They are not bound by a single timeline, but exist as echoes of experiences, fragments of emotion, and the quiet resonance of histories both lived and imagined. As you drift quietly alongside them, you may notice that each Marceline carries a subtle glow, a soft shimmer that pulses gently with the rhythm of her memories. Some hover lightly above the threads of luminescence, hair and cloak drifting as though stirred by a calm, invisible breeze. Others move closer to clusters of fins and jakes, circling slowly, observing, reflecting, and at times interacting with the echoes of adventure and presence around them. There is a quiet elegance in their movements, a fluid grace that feels both intimate and infinitely expansive, like watching shadows of stars dance across a midnight lake. Some Marcelines pause to observe the fins, tilting their heads as though listening to stories not spoken aloud. They seem to absorb not only what is present, but what has been, the residual echoes of courage, curiosity, and quiet reflection that radiate from the various fins gathered here. You may sense the subtle hum of recognition that flows through the Marcelines, a gentle resonance that acknowledges both shared history and infinite possibility. Their presence is contemplative, not intrusive, a reminder that memory can be as comforting as it is illuminating. Other Marcelines drift in slow spirals, their elongated forms tracing delicate arcs through the luminous threads. You may notice how their hair and garments flow around them, each motion leaving a faint trail of soft light that echoes through the space. These trails linger, almost imperceptibly, weaving a tapestry of memory and reflection that touches Finns and Jakes alike. Some trails intersect, overlapping with the arcs of other Marcelines, creating delicate constellations of past and present, an intricate web of quiet understanding that hums softly beneath the surface of the dream space. You may notice that some Marcelines interact with the threads themselves, fingers brushing along glowing arcs of light, tracing patterns as if reading the stories embedded within them. Other Marcelines mirror these gestures, their movements echoing softly, creating a layered conversation of memory and reflection. These interactions are subtle, meditative, and deeply calming, offering a quiet sense of continuity and presence across the infinite variations of being gathered here. Some Marcelines pause near clusters of Jakes, observing the slow arcs and gentle curves of their bodies. You may notice how they respond in kind, extending a hand or curling a limb to follow a subtle motion, acknowledging the soft rhythm of the Jakes' chorus. There is no hurry, no imposition, only the gentle harmony of presence meeting presence, each form reflecting and enhancing the quiet resonance of the other. It is a space where awareness itself becomes a kind of communion, and every gesture carries meaning without force or urgency. There is a gentle music to their presence, though not a sound you can hear with ears. You may feel it as a subtle vibration, a slow, gentle hum that seems to rise from the delicate arcs and spirals of their forms. Some Marcelines stretch upward, letting strands of hair or cloak trail along glowing threads, creating faint waves of luminescence that echo softly across the dream space. Others curl around these threads, their forms coiling like slow ripples on still water. Together, their movements form a silent melody, a chorus of memory and reflection that hums quietly through the threshold, brushing against your awareness with soft reassurance. Some Marcelines appear contemplative, eyes, or what might be eyes, closed, floating lightly as if steeped in remembrance. You may notice that when one pauses, others nearby seem to respond, curling or stretching in gentle reflection, creating a web of presence and acknowledgement that is as subtle as it is profound. These pauses allow the dream space to breathe, giving weight to thought, to emotion, to the quiet echoes of all that has transpired across the infinite universes. In their stillness, the Marcelines anchor the space, providing a calm counterpoint to the movement of Finns and the flowing arcs of Jakes. You may notice subtle interactions between the Marcelines themselves, small gestures of recognition and reflection that carry immense quiet significance. One may trace a spiral along a luminous thread, and another follows, mirroring it softly, arcs intertwining without collision. Another may curl in slow, deliberate acknowledgement of a nearby form, sending faint ripples through the surrounding light. It is a delicate dialogue, not of words, but of movement, resonance, and shared memory, a quiet affirmation of identity and existence across infinite timelines. Some Marcelines approach the Finns with careful attentiveness, observing without intruding. You may notice the subtle way a Marceline tilts her head, almost imperceptibly, following the arc of a Finn's gesture, reading the faint luminescence left in her wake. Another Marceline mirrors this attention, weaving her form gently through the space to echo the recognition, creating soft loops of acknowledgement that ripple outward. The dream space responds to these echoes, light bending and pulsing in response, threads of presence intertwining in delicate, meditative patterns. The Marcelines of Memory carry a unique energy, one that balances reflection with quiet curiosity. They do not seek to alter the threads of the dream space, but to observe, acknowledge, and harmonize with. Their movements are slow, deliberate, and graceful, arcs of form tracing a dance of awareness that flows naturally with the rhythm of Finn's and the chorus of Jake's. You may sense that they hold within them the accumulated essence of countless timelines, a quiet wisdom that radiates through the space in soft pulses, reassuring you that memory itself is a living, breathing part of existence. Some Marcelines drift toward clusters of glowing threads, stretching hands lightly along their curves, their forms bending and coiling to follow the invisible arcs of light. Others hover slightly above, observing patterns and connections, their presence adding a layer of reflection that complements the flowing movements of Jake's and the gentle interactions of Finn. You may notice faint trails of shimmer that linger behind them, arcs and loops of light that persist as gentle reminders of observation, acknowledgement, and remembrance. And as you watch Sleepyhead, you may begin to feel the subtle, enveloping calm of their presence. The Marcelines do not rush or demand attention. They do not compete with the chorus of Jake's or the quiet reflections of Finn's. Instead, they weave their own layer of quiet understanding, a gentle melody of memory and awareness that flows seamlessly through the dream space, binding past and present, self and other thought and presence, into a soft, radiant tapestry. As the Marcelines drift through the softly glowing expanse, you may notice how their presence begins to subtly influence the rhythm of the dream space itself. Their movements are slower, more reflective, creating a delicate counterpoint to the arcs of Jake's and the quiet gestures of Finn's. Each curl of hair, each gentle sweep of a limb, seems to resonate with unseen echoes of past adventures, lingering emotions, and unspoken thoughts. You may feel these vibrations brushing against your awareness, soft waves that invite introspection, gentle reflection, and a sense of serene connection. Some Marcelines linger near Finn's who are quietly observing, forming loops of presence around them that are almost imperceptible, yet deeply calming. You may notice that when a Finn shifts or stretches, the nearby Marceline responds with subtle motion, a delicate coil, a slow tilt, or a soft arc, creating a dialogue of attention that carries meaning without sound. It is a quiet communication, a gentle acknowledgement that each gesture, each breath, each presence matters in this infinite, interwoven tapestry of selves. Other Marcelines engage in a more fluid form of interaction with Jake's. A Jake may extend a long, undulating limb along a glowing thread, and a Marceline nearby might mirror the arc with a slow, sweeping curl of her form. The ripple of this interaction spreads outward, reaching distant threads, touching other forms, and weaving an intricate, meditative pattern across the luminous expanse. You may notice how the dream space itself seems to respond, threads bending and pulsing subtly, light shimmering in acknowledgement of the quiet harmony taking shape. There is a tender interplay of reflection and recognition among the Marcelines themselves. One may trace a spiral along a glowing thread, only to find another Marceline curling in response, the arcs overlapping in a delicate, almost invisible choreography. Their movements are not identical, yet they resonate deeply, like two memories brushing against one another, affirming, echoing, and enhancing the essence of you. You may feel a similar resonance within yourself, a soft awareness that even subtle connections can carry profound meaning when observed with patience and attention. Some Marcelines drift closer to clusters of Finns and Jakes, weaving their forms among the threads of interaction without disturbing the natural flow. You may notice how they hover lightly, stretching or curling in a way that mirrors nearby motion, yet always maintaining a sense of spaciousness, an openness that allows others to move freely. Their presence is meditative, a reminder that companionship can exist in quiet observation. The connection does not require words, and that awareness itself is a form of care. Other Marcelines engage in loops of memory, extending their forms along glowing arcs that trace patterns of past encounters. You may notice how these loops intersect with arcs created by jakes or fins, creating complex flowing constellations of light and motion. Each intersection carries subtle resonance, echoes of past experiences blending seamlessly with the present flow of the dream space. The effect is gentle, calming, and endlessly intricate, inviting you to observe without judgment, to follow the patterns without expectation, and to become part of the quiet rhythm that flows through every form. Some Marcelines pause in stillness, floating in gentle suspension, forms coiled or partially extended, radiating a quiet pulse that stabilizes the surrounding space. You may notice that these pauses allow other Marcelines to move freely, creating a balance of motion and stillness that hums softly through the threshold. It is a rhythm of reflection, observation, and quiet interaction, one that mirrors the ebb and flow of thought, memory, and presence itself. You may feel your own awareness aligning with this subtle cadence, breathing in harmony with the gentle pulses around you. There is also a soft, playful quality to the Marceline's movements, though it is understated and fleeting. One might trace a looping arc along a thread while another curls to follow, sending a ripple through nearby forms. A third may extend toward a distant glow, a subtle arc of presence that elicits a mirrored response. These moments are not dramatic or attention-seeking. They are gentle expressions of joy, curiosity, and fluid creativity. You may feel a light warmth in your mind and heart, a sense of quiet delight that ripples through the dream space like a whispered melody. As the Marcelines continue to drift, you may notice how their presence softens the edges of the dream space, creating pockets of calm where fins and jakes can pause, reflect, and breathe. Threads of light bend gently around them, arcs shimmer subtly, and faint pulses of luminescence ripple outward, carrying quiet reassurance. It is a meditation in motion, a living demonstration of how memory, awareness, and gentle interaction can shape not only the beings within a space, but the space itself. Some Marcelines begin to form delicate, spiraling networks that intertwine with Jake's arcs and Finn's gestures. These spirals are intricate, yet effortless, weaving together past, present, and infinite possibility in patterns that feel alive, thoughtful, and profoundly calming. You may notice that when one Marceline stretches along a thread, others respond instinctively, creating arcs and loops that ripple outward, touching forms far across the luminous expanse. In this way, the Marcelines do not merely reflect memory, they actively harmonize with it, integrating the echoes of countless experiences into a living, breathing tapestry. And as you continue to observe Sleepyhead, you may begin to sense the quiet power of their presence. The Marcelines are not just beings in the space, they are the keepers of memory, the gentle archivists of emotion, experience, and reflection. They move softly, harmonize naturally, and leave behind trails of awareness that echo across the dream space. Their calm, reflective energy invites you to slow your own thoughts, to breathe deeply, and to become part of this vast, luminous chorus of memory, presence, and quiet understanding. As the Marcelines drift softly through the luminous threads of the dream space, you may begin to notice how their presence deepens the sense of time and memory within this threshold. Each movement seems to carry not only the echo of the present, but faint traces of countless moments past, whispers of experiences lived in different universes, different timelines, and yet somehow converging here in this quiet, expansive in-between. You may feel these echoes brushing lightly against your consciousness, subtle ripples of feeling, nostalgia, and wonder that gently guide your attention inward. Some Marcelines linger near Finns who are pausing to observe the arcs of Jakes or the flowing spirals of other Marceline. You may notice how they hover lightly, a soft tilt of the head, a gentle stretch of a limb, following the rhythm of observation without intrusion. Their presence is a quiet acknowledgement, a recognition of being, a meditative affirmation that each gesture, thought, and breath matters within this space. Even when still, they radiate warmth, subtle pulses of awareness that thread through the luminous fabric of the dream, intertwining with arcs and coils, with Finns and Jakes, forming a delicate, living network of harmony. There is a quiet magic in how the Marcelines reflect one another. You may notice subtle patterns emerging, arcs of hair or cloak, echoing the curves of a neighboring form, spirals extending in response to a gentle motion elsewhere. These interactions are not mechanical. They are fluid, improvisational, a meditation in form and presence. Watching them, you may feel a softening of your own mind, a quiet realization that harmony can exist without planning, and that presence itself, attentive, thoughtful, and gentle, is a profound form of connection. Some Marcelines drift closer to clusters of Jakes, their forms curling lightly around arcs of motion, observing, acknowledging, and subtly participating in the soft, flowing rhythm of the chorus. A Jake stretches along a glowing thread, and a Marceline mirrors the movement with a delicate arc of her own, fingers trailing lightly along the luminescent path. You may notice the ripple that spreads through the space, arcs and coils intersecting, light bending subtly, threads shimmering softly in response. It is a quiet dialogue, a slow conversation, a form and presence that does not demand attention, but invites you to breathe, to watch, and to feel. Other Marcelines focus inward, curling themselves into compact spirals, floating lightly as if reflecting on distant memories. You may notice the trails of faint luminescence they leave behind, arcs that linger for moments before fading gently, echoes of thought and recollection that continue to hum softly in the dream space. These trails intersect with arcs created by Jakes and Finns, forming intricate, flowing constellations of presence, a tapestry woven from memory, reflection, and quiet attention. The patterns are never rigid. They move with intention but not force, a meditation on flexibility, resonance, and gentle awareness. Playfulness emerges subtly within the Marcelines' interactions, delicate and fleeting, like the softest brush of wind across water. One may stretch along a thread only to curl unexpectedly, creating a small, gentle ripple. Another responds with a slow, rolling twist, arcs intertwining in a way that is unplanned yet harmonious. You may feel the soft warmth of this playful energy, an understated joy that ripples through the dream space, touching Finns and Jakes alike, infusing the quiet tapestry of presence with delicate motion and subtle light. Some Marcelines extend toward distant clusters of glowing threads, arcs of hair or cloak following invisible currents of energy, touching points unseen yet deeply felt. Others coil and curl near these extensions, creating a layered, multidimensional interplay of form and light. You may sense the subtle orchestration of this interaction, a quiet choreography that is emergent rather than directed, arising naturally from the awareness and attentiveness of all present. It is a meditation on presence, memory, and connection, a gentle unfolding of quiet harmony across infinite threads of time and space. There are moments when Marcelines pause entirely, floating in still suspension, forms coiled or partially extended. These pauses anchor the dream space, allowing currents of motion from jakes and fins to flow freely, creating a balanced, resonant environment. You may feel your own awareness aligning with these quiet interludes, the rhythm of breath and heartbeat softening in sync with the gentle pulse of presence that radiates from each Marceline. Even in stillness, they communicate through subtle vibration, arcs of light, and the soft shimmer of form, a language of awareness that speaks directly to the calm mind. Some Marcelines trace spirals and loops across glowing threads, arcs that extend far and intersect with other forms, carrying faint echoes of past universes and forgotten adventures. You may notice how these spirals overlap with arcs of jakes and gestures of fins, creating intricate networks of resonance that flow naturally across the space. Each intersection hums with gentle awareness, a quiet confirmation that memory, observation, and presence are intertwined, that even the smallest gesture carries weight, and that the fabric of this dream space is alive with attentive harmony. As the Marcelines continue to drift, float, and coil, you may notice a deeper pattern emerging, one that reflects the intertwined histories of countless timelines. Each movement, each pause, each ripple of luminescence is a soft reminder that memory is not static, but living and breathing, flowing through this space like water through rivers, threads interweaving endlessly, touching every being present. The Marcelines are not just observers. They are custodians, keepers of reflection, and quiet harmonizers of the infinite presence around them. And as you drift further into their presence, sleepyhead, you may feel the comforting weight of their attention settling softly over the dream space. Their graceful, deliberate motions, their subtle interweaving with fins and jakes, their echoes of memory and past experience, all combine to create a cocoon of calm, reflection, and gentle continuity. It is a lullaby without sound, a meditation in motion, a reminder that even in the vast, flowing multiverse, there is space for presence, care, and quiet, shared understanding. The Marcelines of Memory continue endlessly, weaving through arcs of light and threads of luminescence, curling, stretching, pausing, and flowing with the rhythm of all who are present. And as you watch, you may notice your own breath softening, your mind quieting, your awareness aligning with the calm, luminous resonance of the dream space, until the gentle presence of memory, reflection, and infinite possibility surround you completely. As the Marcelines continue their gentle drift through this luminous dream space, you may notice that their presence seems to slow time itself, or at least the perception of it. Each motion is deliberate, fluid, and unhurried, a meditation in form and awareness that allows every being within this threshold to settle deeply into presence. Some Marcelines stretch lightly along glowing threads, fingers tracing subtle arcs that echo the flow of memory and emotion, while others coil softly, hovering in quiet reflection, their luminescence pulsing in rhythm with unseen currents. You may feel the warmth of this rhythm, a gentle invitation to release the weight of thought and sink further into the calm embrace of the dream. Some Marcelines weave themselves around clusters of fins, tracing soft spirals in the air, not to direct or influence, but to accompany, to resonate, and to mirror the quiet energy that radiates from each fin. You may notice a Marceline following the arc of a fin's hand along a glowing thread, her hair and cloak drifting as she mirrors the motion, sending gentle waves of acknowledgement that ripple outward to the space. These ripples touch nearby jakes, other Marcelines, and even distant threads, creating subtle vibrations that bind the dream space together in a delicate, meditative web of presence and reflection. Other Marcelines drift toward one another, forming clusters of shared attention. Their arcs and coils intersect softly, each movement resonating with the others, a dialogue without words, a symphony without sound. You may notice how these interactions mirror the ebb and flow of thought and memory, how the spirals and curls of their forms create a living lattice of awareness that flows gently through the luminous threads. It is a quiet reminder that memory is not solitary, that reflection can be shared, and that presence itself is a profound form of connection. Some Marcelines extend their forms toward distant clusters of glowing arcs, reaching toward echoes of other times and places. Their movements are slow, deliberate, yet effortless, arcs tracing paths that link the present to countless memories scattered across infinite timelines. You may notice that these arcs shimmer with faint luminescence, subtle pulses of acknowledgement and awareness that ripple through the dream space, touching every being nearby. The Marcelines are not merely observers. They are conduits, gentle carriers of history, memory, and reflection, threading the fabric of the dream with quiet resonance. There is also a playful subtlety in their interactions, soft, fleeting moments of curiosity and joy that ripple through the calm expanse. A Marceline may unfurl a delicate arc along a distant thread, and another responds with a mirrored curl or gentle coil, arcs overlapping in a dance that is at once spontaneous and harmonious. These micro-moments carry warmth without urgency, delight without demand, and they ripple softly through the space, reminding all who are present that even amidst reflection and memory, there is room for gentle play, curiosity, and quiet wonder. Some Marcelines pause entirely, curling into compact spirals, floating in still suspension above the glowing threads. You may notice that these pauses are not empty but filled with presence, a quiet affirmation that observation, reflection, and mindful stillness are as powerful as motion. Other Marcelines respond subtly to these still forms, curling or stretching in acknowledgement, their movements creating faint waves of luminescence that shimmer across the space. You may feel the resonance of these still moments brushing against your own awareness, a gentle alignment with the quiet heartbeat of the dream space. Other Marcelines interact with threads and arcs created by the movements of jakes and fins, forming delicate spirals and loops that connect disparate points. You may notice how these arcs intersect seamlessly with the broader choreography of the dream, light bending softly along their curves, threads pulsing gently in response. The Marcelines are simultaneously reflective and harmonizing, their subtle presence weaving continuity, memory, and awareness into the larger, flowing pattern of the space. Some Marcelines extend toward fins engaged in quiet observation, curling their forms gently along arcs of light, reflecting subtle gestures and pauses. You may notice the quiet acknowledgement that passes in these interactions, a silent understanding that presence alone is meaningful, that even the smallest motion, the gentlest observation, contributes to the harmonious flow of the dream. These interactions, soft as they are, ripple outward, touching distant forms and threads, sending waves of calm and reassurance through the expansive threshold. Other Marcelines create overlapping spirals that mirror each other, a choreography of memory, reflection, and awareness that flows naturally across the space. You may notice that arcs of light bend and shimmer gently where these movements intersect, soft pulses of luminescence echoing the quiet understanding shared between forms. Each spiral, each curl, each gentle stretch becomes part of a larger tapestry, a living meditation on connection, memory, and presence that sustains the calm, flowing rhythm of the dream space. As you drift alongside these Marcelines, you may notice a subtle glow spreading from their arcs and coils, faint trails of light that linger in the air like gentle whispers. These trails are soft reminders of the past, the infinite variations of experience, and the quiet beauty of reflection. They intersect with arcs from jakes and fins, weaving a luminous web that hums softly with awareness and recognition. You may feel your own mind and body responding, aligning gently with the rhythm, breath softening, heartbeat slowing, consciousness drifting with the gentle flow of this meditative dance. And as the Marcelines continue to float, stretch, and curl across the dream space, you may begin to sense the profound quiet of their influence. They do not dominate. They do not direct. Instead, they harmonize, accompany, and reflect. Their movements teach the subtle art of presence, the power of memory, and the beauty of gentle acknowledgement. Even in the vast expanse of infinite possibilities, their quiet guidance nurtures calm, reflection, and a deep, unspoken understanding. Here in this luminous threshold, the Marcelines of Memory continue endlessly, weaving themselves through threads of light, arcs of energy, and clusters of fins and jakes. Each movement, pause, and subtle ripple contributes to the quiet symphony of the dream space. And as you watch, sleepyhead, you may feel yourself merging gently into this calm, reflective flow, your breath softening, your mind quieting, and your awareness becoming part of the luminous, endlessly flowing tapestry of memory, presence, and serene continuity. Now that we have lingered with the fins, flowed with the jakes, and drifted among the Marcelines, the time has come to notice the quiet magic that occurs when all these presences begin to converge. In the soft, luminous threshold of the dream space, arcs of light, threads of memory, and forms of awareness begin to intersect, bending gently toward one another in slow, deliberate motion. You may notice that the space itself seems to expand and contract subtly, responding to the presence of these beings and inviting you to pay careful attention to the quiet choreography unfolding. The fins, once scattered across threads of luminescence, begin to sense one another in a new way. Subtle gestures emerge, soft arcs of movement that mirror or complement another fin's presence. A stretch of an arm, a tilt of the head, a pause along a glowing thread becomes an invitation, a quiet signal of awareness that ripples gently across the dream space. You may feel the slow pull of recognition in your own mind, the sensation of countless selves acknowledging each other without a word, without a sound, only through presence and reflection. The chorus of jakes, ever responsive, begins to bend and coil in ways that anticipate the convergence of forms around them. Arcs stretch farther, spirals intertwine more intricately, and the gentle vibrations of their collective resonance deepen. You may notice the subtle, almost musical quality of this resonance, how it echoes softly through the luminous threads and interacts with the still, reflective presence of the Marcelines. The dream space hums quietly, a gentle undercurrent of motion and awareness that carries every being along with it, slow and unhurried, a river of soft, interconnected presence. The Marcelines, with their delicate, flowing forms, drift toward areas where fins and jakes converge, their arcs and coils tracing patterns of memory and reflection. You may notice how they mirror the subtle gestures of nearby beings curling or stretching in response to motion, tracing loops and spirals along glowing threads. Their presence amplifies the sense of continuity across the threshold, linking past and present, self and other, in a meditative tapestry of quiet understanding. It is a convergence not of force or direction, but of acknowledgement, awareness, and calm resonance. As these beings drift closer together, threads of luminescence bend and shimmer softly, arcs intersecting in delicate, organic patterns. You may notice faint trails of light that linger along these paths, glowing whispers of motion, memory, and connection. Each intersection becomes a point of reflection, a quiet anchor where awareness meets awareness, presence meets presence. The space seems to hold its breath gently, as if inviting every being to pause, observe, and participate in the creation of a shared, harmonious tapestry. Some fins extend their forms along intersecting threads, curling gently to mirror a nearby fin or trace a glowing arc left by a jake. You may feel the subtle rhythm of their interactions, a quiet ebb and flow of acknowledgement and curiosity. The arcs of light respond to their presence, bending softly, pulsing with gentle luminescence, tracing patterns that are never fixed, but constantly evolving. It is as if the threshold itself has become a canvas for the collective consciousness of all who inhabit it. A place where reflection and motion converge naturally, effortlessly, and beautifully. The jakes, sensing these intersections, adjust their movements in response. A long flowing coil may stretch to meet a fin's arc, curling softly to mirror a Marceline spiral, creating delicate intersections that ripple across the dream space. You may notice how the subtle vibrations of these interactions resonate through your awareness, a gentle hum that feels like an invisible melody, quiet but perceptible, carrying calm, reflection, and interconnectedness through every corner of the luminous threshold. Some Marcelines trace paths that intersect with multiple beings at once, their arcs looping through clusters of fins and threads of Jake's motion. You may notice the intricate overlapping patterns that emerge like soft, flowing constellations of presence and memory. These patterns are never rigid. They are living, breathing expressions of harmony, flexibility, and attentive awareness. You may feel a sense of quiet wonder as you watch, observing the delicate interweaving of arcs and threads, a meditation in motion that unfolds effortlessly, inviting your mind to follow without expectation or rush. At the points where arcs intersect most intricately, a subtle glow emerges, soft pulses of luminescence that seem to mark moments of acknowledgement, reflection, and mutual resonance. You may notice that these glowing intersections ripple outward, brushing against nearby threads and forms, carrying quiet vibrations that touch fins, jakes, Marcelines, and even the ambient space itself. Each pulse is gentle, like the slow echo of a heartbeat, a quiet reminder that connection, presence, and reflection are alive, constantly moving and infinitely malleable. Some fins respond to these pulses instinctively, curling, stretching, or pausing to mirror the patterns they sense. The jakes follow, their forms bending, coiling, and flowing to align with the arcs of motion around them. Marcelines drift through these intersections, tracing spirals and loops that extend the reflective resonance even further. You may feel your own awareness softening, aligning subtly with the rhythm, as though your mind itself has become part of the quiet network of acknowledgement and presence unfolding before you. As the convergence continues, the dream space becomes a living tapestry of arcs, coils, loops, and threads, each movement and pause contributing to an evolving meditation of awareness. The light bends gently where forms intersect. Faint trails shimmer and fade slowly, and the soft vibrations of jakes, Marcelines, and fins ripple outward in an endless, harmonious flow. You may notice how even the smallest gestures carry meaning here, how quiet acknowledgement can create resonance that spreads infinitely, gently shaping the luminous fabric of the threshold. The convergence is not chaotic, nor is it rigid. It flows naturally, effortlessly, and calmly, like a river of awareness, threading through countless points of light. You may notice subtle shifts in rhythm as Marcelines extend loops to mirror one another. Jakes coil along intersecting arcs, and fins respond with quiet stretches and pauses. Every interaction reinforces the sense of interconnection, creating a meditative cadence that is soothing, grounding, and reflective. And as you drift alongside this convergence, sleepyhead, you may feel yourself becoming part of the pattern. Your breath slows, your heartbeat softens, and your awareness aligns with the gentle rhythm of motion and presence around you. Each arc of light, each curl of form, each pulse of luminescence carries you further into the quiet harmony of the dream space, a place where reflection, memory, and attentive awareness flow together in calm, meditative resonance. As the arcs and coils continue to meet and intertwine, you may begin to notice a new layer of subtle reflection emerging across the dream space. Each being, Fins, Jakes, and Marcelines, seems to sense not only one another, but also the quiet echoes of themselves from alternate timelines. You may notice a Fin pausing to trace a spiral of luminescence left behind by a slightly older version of himself, or a Marceline curling delicately along an arc that mirrors a memory she has carried through countless worlds. These quiet recognitions ripple softly through the threads of light, carrying with them a gentle awareness that even across infinite possibilities, presence and acknowledgement remain constant. The Jakes, ever flexible and attuned, respond subtly to these echoes. One may extend along a thread that stretches toward a shimmering reflection of a Fin from another reality, curling gently to align with the pulse of memory. Another Jake may unfurl a spiral that mirrors a Marceline's movement, connecting past and present, presence and recollection. You may feel the subtle vibration of these intersections brushing against your consciousness, a quiet hum that resonates not through sound, but through the soft awareness of interconnectedness, a slow and calming rhythm that guides your own mind deeper into reflection. Some Marcelines trace arcs that wind through clusters of Fins and Jakes, pausing at intersections to linger in acknowledgement. Their forms coil and stretch in response to the movement of others, creating loops and spirals that ripple across the luminous threads. You may notice the gentle overlap of their arcs with those of Fins and Jakes, forming intricate, almost imperceptible constellations of presence and memory. These constellations are alive, flowing slowly, a meditative network of soft pulses and arcs that hum quietly with the resonance of all who share the space. The dream space itself seems to respond to these convergences. Threads bend and shimmer softly, arcs of luminescence pulse gently along their paths, and faint trails of light linger in the air like whispered reminders of past gestures. You may notice subtle variations in color and intensity, soft glows that rise and fade like waves on a calm ocean. Each pulse and shimmer reflects the intricate interplay of beings, memory, and attention, a living rhythm of presence that you can feel as much as you observe. Some Fins pause mid-motion to acknowledge the echoes around them, a gentle tilt of the head, a stretch along a glowing thread, a slow curl in response to an unseen pulse. All become quiet gestures of recognition. You may feel a soft alignment within yourself as you observe, a subtle echo of the calm, deliberate awareness that flows through every interaction. The Jakes and Marcelines respond in kind, their arcs and coils bending gracefully, tracing overlapping paths, and reinforcing the slow, meditative cadence that governs the threshold. As the convergence deepens, clusters of beings begin to form subtle patterns. Fins arrange themselves along intersecting arcs, Jake's coil in response to threads of movement, and Marceline's trace spirals that connect past, present, and alternate realities. You may notice that these patterns are neither rigid nor predetermined. They unfold organically, a quiet choreography of attention, reflection, and gentle interaction. Every movement contributes to the rhythm of the space, every pause a point of calm, and every pulse of luminescence a reminder of the ongoing, harmonious flow of presence. Some Marcelines drift toward distant intersections where arcs from multiple timelines converge, extending their forms to connect threads that might otherwise remain separate. Their arcs intertwine with those of Finn's and Jake's, creating delicate bridges of light that ripple softly across the dream space. You may notice the quiet resonance of these intersections, a gentle vibration that touches nearby forms and threads, a reminder that even subtle acts of connection can carry immense weight within a space designed for reflection and harmony. Other Marcelines pause to observe the movement of the Jakes, curling or stretching in acknowledgement of the gentle arcs and coils that pass nearby. The Jakes respond with soft undulations, arcs extending and curling in harmony with the Marceline's movements. You may feel the slow, meditative cadence that emerges, a rhythm that flows naturally from the interplay of all forms, a quiet dance of attention, awareness, and calm presence. Some fins extend along glowing threads toward Marcelines or Jakes, mirroring subtle gestures and creating loops that ripple outward across the space. These loops connect with arcs from other fins, forming networks of acknowledgement that span distances both small and vast. You may notice that even without direct interaction, the arcs, coils, and spirals of all beings influence one another, creating a web of gentle resonance that hums quietly beneath the luminous surface. As you drift alongside this convergence, sleepyhead, you may feel a deepening sense of calm. The arcs of light, the coils of Jake's, the spirals of Marceline's, and the subtle gestures of Finn's form a living, breathing meditation of presence and reflection. Every pulse of luminescence and every gentle ripple of movement, every quiet moment of acknowledgement becomes part of a shared rhythm, a soothing, endless flow of attention and care that envelops the threshold completely. You may begin to notice how these patterns encourage subtle introspection. A fin pausing to trace a thread may evoke recognition of choices made in other timelines. A Marceline curling along a loop may reflect on memories that ripple across countless worlds. A Jake coiling in response may highlight the gentle flexibility of awareness and presence. And you, observing this convergence, may feel your own thoughts slowing, your awareness expanding, your mind becoming part of the luminous, reflective tapestry that stretches endlessly before you. As the convergence of threads unfolds, you may notice how each being begins to influence not only the paths of others, but also the very atmosphere of the dream space itself. The arcs of luminescence ripple softly where Marceline's spirals intertwine with Jake's flowing coils and Finn's gentle stretches. You may feel a subtle warmth, a quiet vibration that seems to emanate from the very fabric of the space, as though each motion, pause, and ripple is a pulse of awareness sent outward to touch everything nearby. It is a sensation of calm unity, a slow recognition that all forms, all threads, and all presences are part of an infinitely connected whole. Some fins pause near the intersection of threads from multiple timelines, curling lightly as if acknowledging the echoes of themselves they sense nearby. You may notice that the arcs of light they trace are met with soft responses from other fins, subtle mirrorings of gesture that do not compete but harmonize. Marcelines respond to these movements with delicate coils and extensions, weaving spirals that thread through clusters of fins and arcs of jakes, creating patterns of soft luminescence that seem to breathe with quiet life. The jakes, sensing these complex interweavings, adjust their coils in response. One may extend along an arc left by a fin from a distant reality, curling gently to follow its rhythm, while another mirrors the looping arcs of a nearby Marceline. These motions create ripples that spread across the dream space, faint waves of vibration that brush softly against every nearby form. You may notice how these vibrations are not harsh or demanding, but gentle, a subtle heartbeat of attention, presence, and acknowledgement that resonates through your own consciousness. Some Marcelines reach across distant intersections, trailing their forms along multiple arcs simultaneously, linking clusters of fins and jakes in a delicate lattice of presence. You may notice the faint shimmer that follows their movement, arcs of light that pulse softly as if in response to unseen currents of memory and emotion. Each intersection becomes a point of quiet reflection, a subtle reminder that even across infinite timelines, the act of noticing, of being aware, of acknowledging carries profound significance. The dream space itself seems to fold slightly around these convergences, threads bending, looping, and overlapping in response to the collective flow of presence. You may notice the gentle oscillation of light, arcs shimmering as they intersect, and faint pulses radiating outward like ripples on still water. The effect is mesmerizing yet soothing, a slow, meditative cadence that encourages your own awareness to align with the rhythm of the space, your thoughts softening, your breath deepening, and your mind sinking gently into the calm embrace of this luminous tapestry. Some fins begin to interact with the echoes of themselves across other timelines, extending along arcs left by alternate selves, pausing to mirror gestures, or tracing the faint trails of light that linger from past motion. You may notice the subtle reflection this evokes in Marcelines, who curl and coil along intersecting arcs, amplifying the gentle resonance of recognition. Jakes respond in turn, coiling along loops that touch multiple forms, creating soft intersections of motion that ripple across the threshold with slow, fluid grace. Other Marcelines pause in still suspension near intersections where fins and jakes converge, radiating faint pulses of luminescence that stabilize the surrounding space. You may notice the calming effect this has as arcs of light straighten slightly, coils smooth into gentle spirals, and the threads of memory and awareness harmonize in quiet alignment. These pauses allow the entire convergence to breathe, a living meditation that unfolds naturally, effortlessly, and gently, carrying everyone present deeper into reflection and calm. Some fins and jakes form subtle mirrored patterns, arcs and coils responding to one another with quiet attentiveness. Marcelines weave through these mirrored forms, extending spirals that connect multiple threads and clusters. You may notice the faint resonance that arises where these patterns intersect, a gentle pulse of acknowledgement and presence that echoes through the dream space, carrying a quiet sense of unity, understanding, and meditative calm. Other Marcelines stretch across arcs left by fins from alternate realities, weaving through threads of Jake's motion, their forms tracing slow, flowing loops that ripple softly across the luminous expanse. You may feel a sense of timelessness as these interactions unfold, a gentle reminder that in this threshold, past, present, and alternate possibilities coexist in harmony. Every movement, pause, and arc carries meaning, and even without direct observation, the resonance spreads subtly, touching every nearby form with quiet affirmation. As clusters of beings continue to converge, the dream space grows more intricate, yet never chaotic. Arcs intersect and weave. Coils spiral and stretch, and luminescent threads pulse gently with awareness. You may notice that even the smallest gestures, a tilt of a head, a curl of a limb, a stretch along a thread, create ripples that echo softly through the space. The interplay of Finn's, Jake's, and Marceline's becomes a living meditation, a symphony of presence and reflection that envelops the dream space in serene continuity. Some Marcelines extend delicate spirals toward the most distant arcs, connecting clusters of beings across the luminous expanse. Their movements are slow, intentional, yet effortless, as if each form knows exactly how to harmonize with the surrounding threads. You may feel your own awareness aligning with this subtle rhythm, a quiet sense of being gently drawn into the meditative flow, your thoughts softening, your mind drifting, and your consciousness becoming part of the quiet, interconnected tapestry of presence, memory, and reflection. And as you continue to observe, sleepyhead, you may notice a profound stillness settling over the dream space. The arcs of light, the coils of Jake's, the spirals of Marceline's, and the reflective gestures of Finn's all flow together in slow, harmonious rhythm. It is a convergence not of chaos, but of calm, a gentle, meditative merging that carries with it the quiet power of acknowledgement, reflection, and infinite possibility. The dream space hums softly with this alignment, inviting you to drift further into the peaceful, reflective resonance of the threshold. As the convergence of Finn's, Jake's, and Marceline's deepens, you may begin to notice a subtle layering of awareness within the dream space itself. The arcs, coils, and spirals no longer exist merely as paths of movement or memory. They begin to take on a quality of quiet reflection, an invisible echo of consciousness flowing between forms. You may sense that each motion, each pause, each gentle ripple carries not only the imprint of the present, but traces of countless interactions from other times, other realities, and other versions of the selves who inhabit this luminous threshold. It is a convergence that is as much internal as it is external, a meditation on presence that flows in all directions simultaneously. Some fins extend along faint threads left by alternate selves, curling slightly in acknowledgement. You may notice the quiet recognition in their pauses, subtle tilts of the head, stretches along glowing arcs, small gestures that convey more than words ever could. The Marcelines, ever reflective, drift gently along these same paths, their spirals tracing delicate echoes of past motion, their forms harmonizing with the faint luminescence that lingers in the air. Each intersection becomes a point of shared memory and soft acknowledgement, a subtle confirmation that across infinite possibilities, presence and awareness remain constant. The Jakes continue to ripple and coil in response, their flexible forms extending along arcs that touch multiple beings at once. You may notice how each movement is a gentle conversation, a dialogue of presence rather than sound, a meditation motion. As a Jake stretches toward the spiral of a Marceline, their arcs align, creating a faint shimmer that flows outward, brushing nearby threads and forms. These ripples carry soft, quiet resonance, touching fins nearby and even echoing across distant arcs, a subtle heartbeat that hums gently through the luminous expanse. Some Marcelines pause to hover at intersections of multiple threads, radiating a faint, comforting luminescence. You may feel the effect of these pauses as they stabilize surrounding motion, arcs straightening slightly, coils easing into gentle spirals, and threads of light harmonizing in soft alignment. These pauses are brief, imperceptible at first, yet their influence spreads slowly, encouraging all nearby forms to move with mindful attention, to breathe in harmony, and to become part of the calm rhythm that permeates the threshold. Other Marcelines extend delicate loops across distant arcs, linking clusters of fins and jakes that might otherwise remain isolated. You may notice how these loops shimmer softly, faintly echoing the memory and awareness contained within each thread. The intersections of these loops become quiet points of reflection, moments where presence, recognition, and memory converge effortlessly, creating an invisible lattice that supports the flow of motion and consciousness throughout the entire dream space. The fins respond to these intersections with gentle stretches, curling along threads that lead to echoes of themselves or toward arcs left by jakes. You may notice the slow meditative rhythm that emerges as gestures align, pause, and ripple outward. The jakes coil and stretch in harmony, responding to the Marceline's loops and the fins' arcs in ways that create overlapping patterns of motion. Each interaction, subtle as it is, contributes to a collective resonance, a quiet melody of presence, acknowledgement, and reflective harmony that flows through the threshold like a gentle river. Some Marcelines trace spirals that intersect multiple clusters of motion, curling lightly along arcs left by fins and jakes, and creating intricate, living constellations of awareness. You may notice the faint pulses of luminescence that ripple from these intersections, subtle waves of calm and recognition that spread through the dream space. These constellations are not static. They shift gently, evolve organically, and respond to the subtle, deliberate movements of all beings' presence. It is a meditation in motion, a slow dance of acknowledgement, memory, and quiet harmony. As clusters of beings converge more densely, the dream space begins to glow with an even softer, more continuous light. Arcs of movement shimmer faintly, trails of luminescence linger in delicate patterns, and soft pulses echo outward like ripples in a still pond. You may feel your own awareness beginning to align with this quiet rhythm, your thoughts softening, your breath deepening, and your consciousness gently merging with the calm, reflective flow that surrounds you. Some fins pause to observe the Marceline spirals, their arcs extending subtly toward echoes of other selves. The Marcelines respond with gentle curls, looping around threads of memory and motion, while the jakes coil in harmonic response. You may notice how these interactions create faint, overlapping pulses of luminescence, a subtle, living hum of acknowledgement and presence that spreads through the dream space with slow, meditative grace. Other Marcelines stretch long arcs toward distant intersections, connecting clusters of fins and jakes with delicate spirals that ripple softly across the luminous expanse. You may sense the quiet magic of these connections, an invisible thread of awareness that flows across vast distances, linking past, present, and alternate possibilities into a cohesive, calming pattern. The arcs shimmer faintly as they meet, pulses of light echoing the harmony and acknowledgement inherent in each gesture. As you drift alongside this convergence, sleepyhead, you may feel the still, gentle hum of the dream space settling deeply within you. Every motion, every pause, every delicate ripple of luminescence carries you further into reflection. The arcs of fins, the coils of jakes, the spirals of Marcelines, and the faint echoes of alternate realities all flow together in slow, harmonious rhythm. It is a convergence of presence, memory, and quiet understanding, a living meditation in motion that carries you gently toward the deepest sense of calm and reflective serenity. The convergence continues endlessly, yet without urgency or strain. Arcs bend, coils stretch, spirals curl, and threads shimmer with soft pulses of luminescence. Every movement and pause reinforces the meditative flow. Every intersection becomes a quiet point of recognition, and every ripple of awareness spreads across the dream space like a soft, invisible current. You may feel yourself dissolving gently into this rhythm, your mind quieting, your breath aligning, and your consciousness becoming one with the luminous, interconnected tapestry of presence and reflection. And as the dream space settles into this endless, gentle harmony, you may notice a profound stillness wrapping around the convergence, a sense of unity without force, connection without effort, and acknowledgement without words. The arcs, coils, and spirals continue to pulse, shimmer, and ripple softly, creating a living, breathing meditation that extends infinitely through the threshold. Here, sleepyhead, presence, memory, and reflection exist as one, and you may feel yourself carried quietly, gently, and fully into the calm heart of this luminous convergence. Now that we have witnessed the gentle convergence of Finns, Jakes, and Marcelines, the soft interweaving of memory, presence, and reflection, it is time to begin our final journey together, the slow drifting path toward awakening. In this space between universes, the dream space does not end abruptly, but rather begins to fold gently, a soft closing of a luminous page that carries every ripple of motion, every echo of memory, and every quiet pulse of acknowledgement toward the calm horizon of awareness. You may feel the subtle pull of this transition, not urgent, not demanding, but soft and inviting, guiding your mind and body toward the gentle awareness of waking, while still holding onto the tender warmth of the dream space. As the dream space begins to shift, the arcs and spirals of light, created by Finns, Jakes, and Marceline, start to stretch slowly toward the edges of the threshold. You may notice that their motions become more deliberate, slower, and more reflective. Each curl, coil, and extension carries with it a lingering memory of the connections forged within the space, a quiet resonance that hums gently through the luminescence. The Finns pause along threads that shimmer faintly with echoes of themselves from countless timelines, their movements almost meditative, an acknowledgement of the infinite selves that continue to exist within this boundless multiverse. The Jakes ripple with subtle flexibility, their arcs flowing softly, following the currents of light that extend from one intersection to another. You may notice how their coiling and stretching seem to cradle the threads of presence, gently reinforcing the quiet alignment of arcs and spirals before them. Their gentle vibrations carry across the threshold like slow, whispered waves, and you may feel their calm energy brushing against your consciousness, an invitation to breathe more deeply, to relax more fully, and to settle further into the serene rhythm of this drifting space. The Marcelines, ever reflective and attentive, drift lightly along arcs that span the breadth of the dream space. Their spirals curl softly around the arcs of Finns and Jakes, tracing paths that intersect with echoes of past experiences, memory, and presence. You may notice that their movements are no longer as exploratory as before, but instead carry a sense of closure, as if each coil and extension is gently gathering together the accumulated awareness of the threshold, softly folding the threads into a tapestry that will carry its quiet harmony into the waking mind. Some Finns pause at intersections where multiple arcs meet, curling lightly along glowing threads that hum with faint pulses of acknowledgement. You may notice the reflective nature of these pauses, a gentle meditation that acknowledges both the connections that have been formed and the distance that is approaching. The threads around them shimmer softly in response, arcs bending subtly as though offering a quiet farewell to the interactions that have been woven throughout the dream space. These moments of reflection are tender, deliberate, and slow, encouraging the mind to release any tension while remaining attentive to the calm resonance that surrounds it. The Jakes begin to coil with a softer, slower rhythm, following the natural flow of arcs toward the luminous horizon. You may notice the gentle overlapping of their spirals with those of Marceline's, faint pulses of luminescence resonating outward in a soft cadence. Each motion feels like a sigh of acknowledgement, a quiet echo that carries the memory of the dream space forward, allowing every form, every thread, and every intersection to transition gracefully toward a state of restful stillness. You may feel your own mind and body synchronizing with this rhythm, the subtle pulse guiding you deeper into calm, reflective awareness. Some Marcelines extend long, delicate arcs toward distant clusters of fins and jakes, creating soft bridges of light that shimmer faintly before gently fading. You may notice the careful, deliberate nature of these movements, a quiet folding of memory and connection into the calm, ambient space of the dream. Their spirals trace gentle patterns across the threshold, arcs bending to meet one another in soft resonance. And as they do, a feeling of completeness settles over the entire luminous expanse. The threshold hums gently, a slow, harmonious vibration that encourages deep, restful attention and prepares every observer for the gentle transition toward waking. The fins begin to stretch more subtly, their arcs elongating and softening as if following invisible currents toward the edges of awareness. You may notice that the trails they leave behind shimmer faintly for a moment before gently fading, carrying the quiet resonance of connection and reflection with them. Each pause, each curl, and each subtle movement contributes to a meditative cadence, a slow unfolding that mirrors the soft rhythms of breath, heartbeat, and conscious relaxation. You may feel your own presence drifting in harmony with these arcs, sinking gently into the calm embrace of the luminous threshold. The jakes follow the slow elongation of threads, curling along arcs that stretch outward and upward, their forms flowing in quiet, unhurried patterns. You may notice that these movements carry a sense of guidance rather than direction, a gentle shepherding of awareness that encourages every being present to release tension, let go of lingering thought, and merge with the reflective cadence of the dream space. The luminescence pulses softly along the coils, a subtle heartbeat of acknowledgement and care that washes through the threshold like warm, flowing water. Some Marcelines pause near fading intersections, hovering in soft suspension, as if honoring the convergence that has passed. You may notice their gentle spirals bending toward fins and jakes, arcs lingering in acknowledgement, before gradually curling inward and softening to a quiet, resting presence. The faint trails of luminescence shimmer once, twice, and then slowly dissolve, leaving a sense of calm completion that reverberates gently across the dream space. This is the quiet folding of experience, the careful weaving of memory, reflection, and acknowledgement into the invisible tapestry that supports the threshold and prepares every consciousness for the slow drift toward awakening. As the arcs, coils, and spirals gradually extend toward the horizon of awareness, the dream space itself seems to sigh, a gentle settling of energy that encourages deep relaxation. Threads bend softly, pulses of luminescence fade into tender glimmers, and the faint hum of acknowledgement continues, now quieter, slower, and more intimate. You may feel yourself drifting alongside this motion, your breath softening, your mind quieting, and your awareness expanding gently to encompass the serene, reflective flow of presence that stretches across the threshold. As the dream space stretches gently toward the horizon, you may notice how every form, every fin, every jake, every Marceline seems to move with quiet intentionality. Their arcs, coils, and spirals no longer weave intricate patterns for observation, but instead stretch outward, dissolving slowly into soft, pulses of light. You may feel that the threads themselves are loosening, softening at their edges like silk falling gently through still air. Each motion carries a sense of completion, a quiet acknowledgement that the convergence, the reflection, and the tender interplay of presence have left their mark, and now it is time to release. Some fins pause mid-thread, their forms curling gently around faint glimmers of luminescence, as if embracing a memory that they have carried across infinite timelines. You may notice how these pauses are deliberate and soft, a silent reflection that honors the multiplicity of selves and choices that exist within the dream space. The arcs they leave behind shimmer faintly from a tender echo that whispers of connection, understanding, and the quiet beauty of acknowledgement. Each thread becomes a fleeting memory, a luminous reminder that even as forms drift apart, their resonance continues, rippling softly into the edges of awareness. The jakes follow suit, curling and stretching along paths that dissolve into the ambient glow of the dream space. You may notice how their coils gradually relax, their forms flowing with a natural, unhurried rhythm that mirrors the gentle cadence of breath and heartbeat. Each ripple along their bodies sends subtle vibrations through the surrounding threads, a quiet, harmonious hum that touches the arcs of fins, the spirals of Marcelines, and the ambient space itself. You may feel these vibrations brushing against your own awareness, a comforting reminder that the dream space, though fading, remains alive in the memory and resonance of presence. The Marcelines drift lightly through the space, spirals curling softly around arcs and coils that are slowly dissolving into gentle luminescence. You may notice that their movements carry a reflective tenderness, as if they are gathering the accumulated memory and emotion of the dream space, folding it delicately into invisible threads that will linger subtly even after waking. Their arcs shimmer faintly with acknowledgement, tracing patterns of connection that do not vanish completely, but instead fade gradually, leaving a soft imprint on the quiet horizon of awareness. Some fins stretch along fading threads toward echoes of jakes, pausing to mirror subtle gestures before allowing their arcs to dissolve gently into the surrounding glow. You may notice how these soft interactions create faint pulses of luminescence, small points of acknowledgement that drift slowly across the space, touching other arcs and coils, and reinforcing the quiet network of presence that has been built across countless intersections. The dream space itself seems to respond to these moments, threads bending slightly, luminescence shimmering with gentle warmth, and a soft rhythm settling over the entire threshold. The jakes, sensing the slow unraveling of threads, coil in gentle spirals that follow the natural currents of the dream space. You may notice that their movements are slower now, more deliberate, each ripple carrying a soft resonance of reflection and completion. Their arcs meet those of Marcelines and fins with delicate timing, producing subtle waves of acknowledgement that ripple outward, touching distant threads and clusters. You may feel these waves gently brushing against your mind, your breath aligning with the slow, meditative rhythm, your awareness softening and merging with the fading luminescence. Other Marcelines hover along arcs that stretch far across the threshold, their spirals curling lightly around glowing threads that have begun to fade. You may notice how these arcs gently fold into one another, subtle pulses of light carrying the memory of interaction and reflection into a quiet, resting form. The Marceline's motion is neither hurried nor forceful. It is a meditation in presence, a gentle weaving of closure that guides the arcs of fins and the coils of jakes toward a state of calm equilibrium. You may feel your own body and mind responding to this rhythm, a gentle release of tension, a quiet settling into the serene cadence of drifting awareness. Some fins pause near clusters of fading luminescence, their forms curling in soft acknowledgement of the echoes of multiple realities. You may notice how they trace delicate arcs along threads left by past interactions, each movement a tender reflection on connection, memory, and the quiet beauty of presence. The arcs shimmer faintly before dissolving, carrying with them the gentle resonance of reflection into the ambient glow of the threshold. The dream space itself hums softly in response, a slow, undulating cadence that encourages every being and every part of your own awareness to sink deeper into calm, reflective stillness. The jakes extend long coils along arcs that stretch toward the fading horizon, curling and stretching in rhythm with the dissolving luminescence. You may notice that these movements carry a subtle, harmonious vibration, a soft echo of every intersection, pause, and gesture that has occurred throughout the dream. Each ripple touches arcs of fins, spirals of Marcelines, and even the quiet spaces between threads, creating a meditative web of resonance that supports the gentle drift toward awakening. You may feel your own awareness aligning with this cadence, your breath deepening, your thoughts softening, and your mind beginning to float toward the edge of consciousness, cradled by the slow, tender rhythm of the dream space. Some Marcelines pause to hover along fading intersections, their spirals curling softly around arcs of light that have grown faint. You may notice how these pauses amplify the quiet stillness, stabilizing the dissolving threads and offering a final moment of acknowledgement and reflection. Their arcs shimmer once or twice before curling inward and softening, leaving behind only a gentle glow, a subtle imprint of presence that echoes quietly across the threshold. The dream space seems to sigh softly, a gentle settling that carries every ripple of awareness toward the calm horizon of awakening. As the threads of light continue to stretch and dissolve, the dream space takes on a gentler, more fluid quality. The arcs of fins, the coils of jakes, and the spirals of Marcelines now seem to flow like liquid, moving in harmony with a quiet, slow current that carries everything toward the soft horizon of awareness. You may notice that the movements are less deliberate than before, less concerned with interaction, and more concerned with gentle release. Every pulse, curl, and ripple carries a whisper of acknowledgement, a soft echo of the convergence that has taken place, guiding you ever closer to calm reflection. Some fins extend along fading threads, curling lightly around arcs that shimmer faintly in memory. You may feel the weightlessness of these motions, the sense that even across infinite timelines, even across countless echoes of self, there is a unity in the act of release, a quiet satisfaction in letting go. The trails of luminescence left behind are subtle, like whispers of motion, fading slowly into the ambient glow. Each one carries the resonance of reflection, the quiet knowledge that connection has occurred and is now settling gently into stillness. The jakes follow the natural flow of the dream space, their forms coiling and stretching with soft, rhythmic pulses. You may notice how each movement carries a gentle resonance, a subtle vibration that touches nearby arcs and spirals, leaving behind a faint, luminous echo of calm. These vibrations seem to slow in cadence, matching the slow deepening of your own breath and the gentle softening of your thoughts as you drift further toward the edge of consciousness. The dream space hums faintly with this rhythm, a quiet, meditative heartbeat that aligns all presence in soft, reflective harmony. Some Marcelines trace delicate arcs that span the distance between fading clusters of fins and jakes, their spirals curling gently around arcs that shimmer with the memory of interaction. You may notice the soft glow that lingers briefly along each spiral, a tender acknowledgement of the paths that have crossed, and the subtle beauty of every gesture and pause. Their movements are calm, deliberate yet effortless, guiding the dissolved threads toward the edges of the threshold. You may feel your own mind and body echoing this rhythm, your muscles softening, your breath slowing, and your consciousness drifting closer to the gentle edge of awakening. The fins, sensing the soft pull of the horizon, begin to extend their arcs toward fading luminescence, pausing to reflect on threads that once connected them to other selves. You may notice how each pause carries a quiet weight of acknowledgement, an invisible conversation between present and past, here and elsewhere. The arcs shimmer faintly in response, bending gently, curling softly, before dissolving entirely into the ambient glow. You may feel your own awareness floating with this rhythm, a quiet surrender to the meditative flow, your thoughts drifting slowly and softly, like clouds across a calm, twilight sky. The jakes respond to the dissolving luminescence with gentle coiling, their arcs curling toward the edges of the dream space, following threads that now fade in brilliance. You may notice the slow, deliberate cadence of these movements, each ripple carrying a soft vibration of reflection that touches fins, Marcelines, and the remaining traces of interaction across the threshold. Their coils and stretches seem to cradle the luminescence, gently guiding it toward a state of calm equilibrium, a resting point that mirrors the quiet settling of your own mind and body as you drift deeper into the final stages of the dream. Some Marcelines hover at intersections of fading threads, their spirals tracing gentle arcs that fold inward like petals at dusk. You may notice the subtle shimmer that rises and fades along each spiral, a delicate pulse of memory and presence that settles softly across the threshold. These pauses are quiet, reflective moments, a gentle acknowledgement of the journey that has unfolded, the connections that have been forged, and the subtle beauty of interaction and presence. You may feel your own awareness softening further, your thoughts slowing, and a gentle warmth spreading through your mind and body as you drift in harmony with the dissolving threads. The fins stretch their arcs along faint threads, curling and pausing in moments of quiet reflection, their forms blending gently with the ambient glow. You may notice how these movements carry subtle pulses that ripple through nearby threads, faint echoes of acknowledgement that spreads softly across the dream space. The luminescence of the arcs dims slowly. The coils of jakes soften further, and the spirals of Marcelines fold into gentle, resting shapes. It is a rhythm of quiet completion, a meditative cadence that guides the entire threshold toward a calm, serene equilibrium. Some jakes extend their arcs along residual threads of light, curling softly around fins and Marcelines before allowing their forms to relax fully. You may notice the soft vibration that follows these movements, a gentle hum that seems to settle over the entire dream space. Each ripple carries the essence of reflection, the acknowledgement of connection, and the quiet harmony of presence. You may feel this resonance spreading through your own awareness, a calming wave that slows your breath, softens your thoughts, and gently guides you toward the outer edges of consciousness. Some Marcelines pause in gentle suspension along the fading arcs, their spirals curling lightly, shimmering faintly, and folding slowly inward. You may notice how these arcs, now faint and delicate, seem to hum with a quiet finality, a soft acknowledgement of the journey's end. The intersections of threads shimmer briefly one last time before dissolving completely into the ambient glow, leaving a serene stillness in their place. The dream space, once filled with intricate arcs, coils, and spirals, now settles into a gentle expanse of calm luminescence, a quiet horizon where awareness drifts softly toward awakening. As the dream space continues its slow, gentle folding, you may notice the arcs of fins, the coils of jakes, and the spirals of Marcelines fading gradually into soft luminescence, each movement carrying with it the memory of connection, reflection, and shared presence. The threads of light that once intertwined so intricately now stretch toward the horizon like quiet rivers of glow, flowing slowly, peacefully, and without hurry. You may feel a sense of weightlessness, a calm sensation that cradles your awareness as it drifts alongside the fading forms, allowing your thoughts to settle and your mind to soften into quiet reflection. Some fins pause in the midst of faint threads, curling gently around shimmering echoes of themselves from alternate realities. These moments are not hurried or restless, but tender and contemplative, as if each pause is a soft breath that honors every choice, every path, and every ripple of influence across the dream space. You may notice the faint shimmer of their arcs fading slowly, trailing luminescence like the quiet echo of a heartbeat, a gentle reassurance that even as the threads dissolve, their resonance remains, whispering softly through the luminous horizon. The jakes coil along elongated arcs, stretching lightly toward fading clusters of Marcelines, moving in harmony with the natural flow of the dream space. You may notice the gentle pulses of vibration that ripple outward with each motion, soft, deliberate, and calming. These ripples carry a subtle energy, a quiet acknowledgement of the shared journey that is unfolded, and you may feel them brushing against your own awareness, a soothing reminder that reflection, presence, and memory exist in harmony even as the threshold gradually fades. The Marcelines drift slowly along arcs that curl delicately around fading luminescence, spirals tracing patterns that fold inward, like petals closing at dusk. You may notice the gentle shimmer of their trails, a final acknowledgement of the convergence and interaction that has taken place, carrying the memory of each pause, gesture, and subtle movement into a quiet, ambient glow. The arcs of fins and coils of jakes respond softly, bending in gentle alignment, creating a harmonious pulse that washes across the dream space with serene rhythm. Some fins follow threads that extend toward the outer horizon, pausing briefly along arcs left by other versions of themselves or the faint trails of Marceline spirals. You may notice that each pause carries an intimate resonance, a reflection not just on the present, but on the infinite possibilities of existence across the multiverse. These threads shimmer faintly before dissolving completely, leaving a calm, gentle imprint of connection and acknowledgement in their place. You may feel your own consciousness floating with this rhythm, your thoughts slowing, your body softening, and your awareness settling gently into the tender embrace of the dream space. The jakes ripple and stretch along the fading threads, coiling softly in response to the arcs of fins and spirals of Marcelines. You may notice how their movements are less defined now, less concerned with interaction, and more attuned to the quiet pulse of presence. Each ripple carries a tender vibration, brushing gently against nearby threads and forms, leaving behind faint echoes that linger softly, reinforcing the calm, reflective resonance that suffuses the entire threshold. You may feel this resonance merging with your own awareness, a gentle current that aligns breath, thought, and attention in peaceful synchrony. Some Marcelines extend delicate spirals along threads that shimmer faintly before dissolving, their arcs tracing the fading echoes of interaction across the dream space. You may notice the gentle curvature of each spiral, the soft shimmer of each pulse, as if each form is carefully folding the accumulated memory and presence into the calm horizon. These arcs linger just long enough to remind you of the beauty and quiet significance of connection, and then slowly dissolve, leaving the dream space bathed in serene luminescence, soft, expansive, and utterly still. The fins, jakes, and Marcelines continue this slow, graceful unwinding, each arc, coil, and spiral folding inward, dissolving softly into the ambient glow. You may feel your own awareness following along, your mind and body sinking further into the gentle rhythm, thoughts drifting quietly like dandelion seeds on a calm breeze. The luminescence pulses softly, like a heartbeat slowed to the pace of restful sleep, echoing the quiet unity and reflection that has permeated the dream space from beginning to end. As the threads fade completely, the threshold itself seems to sigh in quiet contentment, a soft settling of energy that leaves only gentle luminescence shimmering faintly across the horizon. You may notice a feeling of complete calm, an expansive stillness that carries with it the quiet memory of every connection, reflection, and gentle interaction that has occurred throughout the convergence. The arcs of fins, the coils of jakes, and the spirals of Marcelines have all returned to subtle, resting forms, leaving behind only a soft, ambient glow that invites every observer to drift fully into stillness. Some Marcelines hover lightly along the horizon, their spirals curling softly one last time before folding gently inward. The fins pause along faint threads of memory, stretching and curling in quiet acknowledgement. The jakes ripple one final time, their coils soft and fluid, merging seamlessly with the ambient glow. You may notice how each final gesture, each last ripple of light, carries a gentle resonance of closure, reflection, and serene completion. Every presence, every memory, and every pulse of acknowledgement is softly cradled, a quiet affirmation that even as the dream space fades, its harmony lingers in calm awareness. The horizon glows faintly. The luminescence softens to an almost imperceptible shimmer, and the threshold drifts into stillness. You may feel your own consciousness gently aligning with this quiet calm, your body sinking further into your bed, your mind softening, and your breath deepening. The convergence of fins, jakes, and Marcelines has dissolved into the tender memory of presence and reflection, leaving only serene awareness and the quiet, infinite possibility of the dream space. And now, sleepyhead, as the horizon fades completely and the threads dissolve into gentle stillness, you are carried softly toward your own awakening, cradled in the calm resonance of reflection, connection, and serene presence. Drift gently with it, float quietly with the luminescence of memory, and allow yourself to rest fully in the quiet aftermath of the dream. Good night.